Hey everybody, Roar the Lions UK, Matt and Ash. We're just getting set up here for our camp battles, OTAs, and soccer five-a-side NFL player fantasy team. But we'll just get started in just a moment. Ash, how you doing, mate?
Doing great. I've absolutely well, kind of going off the back of the five-side thing. That match we just watched is giving me life. As someone who people who know me from school will know, I had a weird thing for Slovakia. I got them once in a sweepstake in Euros 20. I think it was like the World Cup 2010. And ever since, they've kind of been like my sort of weird team I followed. For them to beat Belgium 1-0, inject it into my veins, even though that's one of the few teams as a Villa player in, but still inject it into my veins.
Yeah, always good fun. The tournament's been quite good so far, actually. I think it's kind of delivered on some excitement, even though there haven't been any big upsets until today. I think it's been quite compelling watching, and the crowds have been really good. The English fans have not been the most well behaved. What's new?
Yeah.
You know.
Oh, well, you say that, yeah. I just feel sorry for that guy who was watching the game and found it so boring he fell asleep and woke up to an empty stadium.
All right, Ryan says he's going to be potentially delayed, so we're going to get cracking, and we'll see when or if he joins us. So, if you got any questions as we go, let me know. If you think that my eyes look weird or anything like that, I've had really bad hay fever today, and it has completely knocked me for six, to be honest. So I may be, and this may be a good thing for everyone. I may be briefer than normal, so there we go. I
And
just
that,
feel absolute dead. So
and that's an idiom people actually get now with the US making the Super 8 and the T20 World Cup. Well done, guys. I'm proud of you guys.
all right, you ready?
Yep.
Here we go.
Recording in progress.
Welcome to another edition of the Roar of the Lions UK podcast, episode 275, Camp Battles. My name's Matthew Turner, alongside Ashley Soden. How you doing, man?
Doing great, doing great. Obviously, it's another step closer to football, I say, when now OTAs are kind of stopped for a month and then we're back for training camp. But every day it's a step closer to actual proper football, and it's good. It's good. I need it. I need the proper stuff.
Yeah, it feels like a long off season, although not as long as normal for Lions fans, which is a blessing in itself. Anywho, we are talking today about the end of OTAs. It was the rookie week for OTAs. One day less, we know, but we'll talk about that. We'll talk about the ensuing press conferences, which actually highlighted the assistant coaches, which was really interesting to listen to. We're going to talk about the upcoming camp battles, and then we are talking about the five-a-side team. Next week, we've got coming up a discussion on the upcoming free agency class for the Detroit Lions of 2025. So who is in the last year of their contract? Who might we want to get ahead of re-signing? Who are we happy to let run down the deal and see how this year goes? Are there any people that you would consider using the tag for, and maybe strategically you're going to let them see if they can win it and you will use a tag on them if they have to? That's all coming up next week. If you didn't listen to the show last week, we had a fantastic show, if I do say so myself, on the NFC North. We had a roundtable with someone from the Packers and the Bears. Unfortunately, our Vikings guy wasn't able to make it, but it was really good. The contributors we had were fantastic. So go back and listen to that. And also the college show, it dropped yesterday on YouTube, last week on the audio pod. It was the CUSA preview part 1. So the first episode of season 4 of the college show. Ant and Ryan with another fantastic job. I'm halfway through at the moment, learning as much as I can for the upcoming season. So go and give that a listen too. But otherwise, just to get through the rest of the preamble, Discord channel. The link is in the live chats right now. Would love for you guys to come and chat with us on there. Please don't forget to like the show, like the episode, sub to us, all that good stuff. You know what to do. And I'll leave it there because I'm bored of the rest. Let's get on with this. Some news to start with. And Ash, a player that a lot of people thought might risk getting into the 53 has instead been released pretty damn early. I know I hit a flat 0 with the tight end that we let go, but linebacker Steel Chambers out of Ohio State was released by Detroit and has been claimed on waivers by New England. Surprised it happened this early?
Yeah, so and one I was surprised it was him and not a guy we're going to come on to later with our sort of like battles discussion with Gilbert, because you heard a lot about Chambers and he showed a bit more promise supposedly in camp, but there must be something that obviously we haven't heard about with Gilbert that's keeping around. But yeah, like Chambers was battling for that sort of Anthony Pittman role as linebacker six, who's on the roster, is active on game days, but mostly for special teams, doesn't really do too much on defense. But if you need him to, can come in and be like a run stopper. So yeah, I'm surprised he's been released, but at the same time, not surprised at all that New England got him. Number 3 in the waiver wire, and they love their big linebacker cost-offs from us. Look at, dare I say his name, Jelani Tavai, the guy who flamed out here and arguably has been one of the best linebackers in the league the past 2 years in New England. So if Seal Chambers makes an All-Pro this year, don't be too surprised.
We've made a habit, especially at linebacker, of not being able to use them in a way that means they can be successful. I definitely think, historically, it was us, not them, and I definitely look at Tavai in a new light. So I don't see any problem with invoking that name, but there we go. Van den Bosch as well as the other one, isn't he?
Cole Van Noy.
Oh, that's the one. Sorry, Carl Van Noy. Oh, God. Sorry.
And Jamie Collins.
No. Jamie Collins was never good after he left us, so that doesn't count. That doesn't count.
True.
But all right. In the place of Steel Chambers, the Lions have won the battle to get the kicker Jake Bates from the Michigan Panthers, who signed a 2-year deal with the Lions, reportedly. Don't think it's actually been announced by the team yet that he's on the roster, so we're still waiting for the official announcement. He was named to the All-UFL team this season. Had a fantastic start to the season. Obviously, everyone knows him for his big leg and doing really well after over 60 yards. But Ash, he actually had a kind of slight downturn in the kind of last third of the UFL season, missing quite a few, and showed, potentially weakness outdoors. The Lions aren't playing a lot of outdoor games, but it's interesting that we've signed a third kicker at this point.
It is and it isn't. So we've had 3 kickers on the roster before. So I think it was last season when we had, around this time, we had obviously Badgley traded for Patterson from the Jaguars for a late round pick. And then we had another former sort of USFL guy and Ant's favourite guy in John Parker Romo. So it seems we do like to have 3 guys there. For me, the shock is actually that we kind of did it. I know the fans have been calling it for a while, and he seems to be great inside Ford Field with the Panthers. But obviously the outdoor struggles, plus the fact that Badgley seemingly discovered like a new sort of leg strength. He's sort of been doing the leg press machine during the off season and gained an extra 5-10 yards of strength. And James Turner, the UDFA guy we got from Michigan, who had been before that Louisville, he's seemingly doing great. So it was almost a shock because we have 2 good guys there. Did we need to bring Bates in? But if he wins the battle, then he deserves it, and he's going to have the fans behind him until he doesn't. And if not, then at least we've got contact with him, and he's had offers from around the league as well. Texans, the Packers, and I believe the other one was the Browns, all had him in before he signed for us. He's probably going to land somewhere in the league and probably going to get like an AFC player, special teams player of the year. Well, not player of the year, player of the week award. If he's player of the year for AFC, then we've really missed something. But again, wouldn't be surprised. But let's hope he can come in and show himself well, because he had those outdoor struggles, and I don't know. He also didn't he get injured near the end of the season, making a tackle, hurt his hip. So it might not be that he might not be able to kick for a couple of weeks as well. And I know Fip, as Riz said on his podcast, the latest DLP that he did, Fip likes to take everything into account, not just one bit of pre-season, but he's already coming in behind the 8 ball in a way. And then he's got that injury. He might have an uphill struggle right now to win the starting job, but he'll get some game tape out there for other teams at least.
Do you expect a corresponding move, or do you think they'll run with 3?
I think they'll run with 3 for now. As I said, we've done it before, and it might be that if there's an injury in camp or something, then one of them will go. And honestly, I hate to say it, because right now he is the incumbent, but it'll probably be Badgley that'll be gone, because we almost know what we've got there. We've shown before we can cut him, and then because of the kicker carousel, either you'll be able to bring him back later in the season if you need to, or you can get someone of an equitable level. So it'll probably be Badgley gone because he's the veteran guy. He'll probably be able to land somewhere, but with Turner and Bates, you've probably got a bit more upside. So it'll be Badgley gone, if anything.
Yeah, I agree. I think that Turner's done enough to kind of win the battle so far. Obviously, camp will be another test for them, but he's got a much bigger leg naturally without having to work on it, and he's been making more of his kicks overall. And I know that Riz went into talking about how, aside from the situational stuff, that Badgley had made lots more than he did in the situational stuff. But you know what, the situational stuff is more akin to a game day situation, so that kind of matters more to me. I'd be very surprised if the Badger continued on. I think there will be a corresponding move, and I think Badgley will be released when Jake Bates gets announced. And we have to welcome back the man who made his first appearance for 2 months on the College Show last week, who hasn't been on with us, I don't think, since we did the draft stuff after the week after it all happened. Anthony Fitzpatrick is back. How you doing, man?
I'm doing good, guys. Hope you are all well on this lovely Monday evening, losing the track of time. But it's sunny, that's all I care about.
True.
Man is back. Getting a good reaction on YouTube. I love it. What do you think on Jake Bates?
Wait and see what happens sort of going forward. I mean, I'm not as enamored with it as everyone else. Everyone loves a guy who can kick 60 yards. But you're kicking 77%. You're 60% from over 50. You're in the UFL playing in front of stag parties and people who've got nothing better to do on a day out. There's a big difference kicking in front of 70,000 people who are rabid in a potential game-winning situation in the NFL. Like, it's just night and day difference. The pressure just ratchets up so much. So by all means, you go into camp, you knock every kick through you can, you prove that you can do it. But like, you know, at this minute, it's no given. I'm not putting him in front of Badgley, I'm not putting him in front of Turner. I would need to see what you can do first. Like, it's great you can kick from so far, but can you do it when it matters? We'll see. But, you know, you need a strong competition in camp. That's the whole point of it. Have 3-4 guys in there, and hopefully at least one of them's going to be like, all right, I need to do my job here. I'll go into the season and, you know, you keep them on their toes and they'll kick well for us. I mean, if he can keep up this level of what he does, that's absolutely great for us. And they seem to have a level of trust in him. They're giving him a 2-year deal, not a 1. Maybe that's what it needed to get him here, but I don't know, man. We'll see. I'm not as hyped just at the moment, but, you know, you need to start doing it in the NFL first, and then I'll trust you. At least, if anything, Badgley is steady in the NFL, which is better than a lot. So, yeah, we'll see with him.
I'm still. Have the contract details been released for him? Because all I heard, in fact, no, because it's not officially announced yet. It won't have said yet. But I don't think the 2-year deal says anything about whether they believe in him or not. Because we've given Isaiah Williams a 3-year deal. Pretty sure he's not making the 53 at this point, and so he'll take his guaranteed money and he'll run. And I'm sure that Bates will have some guaranteed money. But will it be more than the $500,000 that Badgley got? Was it 450, 500k Badgley got? So, you know, I don't think it says anything. If my money was on someone right now, I think James Turner is going to be the winner when it's all said and done. But we shall see. Last piece of news we have is that the Lions have hired the Cardinals Manager of Football Analytics and Research, Charlie Atkins, as Senior Director of Football Administration, which was a post formerly held by Brandon Sosner, who went to the Commanders recently as their Senior VP of Football Operations. In the role for the Lions, Sosner was one of the lead points on contract negotiations. He's been credited with getting all of these early extensions over the line for Amara and Sewell and Goff, and being a bit of a cap wizard. So Charlie Atkins comes over. And boys, this gives me a bit of trepidation if he's going to be given this sort of leeway. Because I know it's only a very narrow thing that you have to focus on. But it was something Sosner was very good at in terms of trying to balance the cap. When one player's hit goes down, another goes up. You know, it's not just kind of flat line. You're timing your extensions and staggering them so they hit in different years. Sosner was fantastic at it, and it doesn't look like Atkins has had any experience in this whatsoever. He's been in the front office for a long time, though. I think he was 5 years in his current post and 2 years
7.
in a different post in the Cardinals organisation before that. So he's experienced, but this is definitely a step up for him.
It was the same with Sosnodon. He'd never worked with contracts before. He came from USC in college. So I have faith that Atkins can do it. I mean, this is a guy who, might not have the sort of contract know-how that Sosna might have done behind the scenes at USC, but this is one of the guys who was key in them trading up with us last year. So while we might be losing a bit in terms of this contract stuff, obviously we've still got like Disney who did that before for us as well. We're gaining something in terms of trades, especially on draft day. So it could be where we go more towards this trading sort of scenario as we get more towards this win now window. Could we see a sort of move slightly more towards a less need F them picks kind of approach where we won't need contracts, we just trade for guys near the trade deadline, expiring deals, and go for it that way? Could he help with us? Maybe, but at the same time, I have faith that he can learn. We've done it before with Sosna, kind of did it before with Disney. He'd never really done it before he came into the league with us about 5-6 years ago himself. And he's got great guys to learn under with Disney, with Holmes, with this with this regime in the front office. He can definitely learn. So I've got faith in it. I've obviously, when I put the news in our Discord, I put he because we all know I love to track these random guys that no one cares about in the front office. And this is the new guy who, in a couple of years, might be seen as one of the hottest names in the sort of general manager market. So nice for us to continue having this sort of conveyor belt of good guys at the front office as well as on the coaching staff.
All right, we will move on to talking about OTAs now and the press conferences before moving on to the cap battles and then the five-a-side fantasy team built from NFL players. Just want to make sure that you guys know about our second quiz, which is coming up. I think I'm planning to do that again this coming Saturday, late afternoon, evening time, Eastern time. So that will probably be, I don't know, 11 p.m. UK time, 10:30 p.m. UK time, something like 5:30, 6 p.m. Eastern. I think the first one was a great success. We had some really, really nice feedback from the people who attended. $10 gift card to the winner if you're in the UK. Can't do gift cards for the NFL stuff, so that unfortunately, well, from my perspective anyway, has to be either a bank transfer or a charity of your choice, because I don't have any other choice in that matter. Well done to the winner, Brett, a couple of weeks ago. You might have seen, but we actually, he said to us to just donate it, and so it went to a food charity in Metro Detroit that take donations of food which is going off and distribute it to the hungry in Detroit. So I think if we do get any people saying to donate it to charity, I think I'm going to continue with that one, unless any of the guys have a specific one in mind they want it to be donated to, because if you do, absolutely, you nominate someone if you want to. Don't forget, the winner of the overall series gets themselves a Lions jersey, so if you've not been in event number 1, there's going to be several through this series, and first and second place were almost double fifth place, so everyone is going to have a chance to win the overall thing, even if you haven't won or been present in the first one. And also, mile marker, I will say Brett, not Brent, but close, and I actually got pulled up for that during the quiz, but there we go. Right, OTAs, boys. Not too much to talk about here. Quite fun. Mostly rookie stuff. Some vets hanging around. Some comments from Pride of Detroit on this. Apparently, Hookup looked better again. He's kind of progressing and coming through. Had lovely touch on a wheel route. Showed off a good bullet throw. His processing is still taking a bit of time, and he's taking some sacks. No news there, really. Caden Davis, he's had a great spring so far, and he also flashed a bit as a punt returner. Jeremy did note that, that is not up for grabs as a position right now with Khalif, but for him to show that as a backup to Khalif is a feather in his cap. Sione Vaki, again showing off his chops in the receiving game with a nice catch on a wheel route. Other bits and pieces that he did in the receiving game. there's a lot of people saying in here that he is really making a heavy run at running back 3. If he can get the pass protection down, that he might actually have the leg up on Craig Reynolds, which is really interesting to hear. And then unfortunate play from Giovanni Manu, just his inexperience showing through in the situational stuff. They were running a 4th and 1 play, and they were just trying to draw the defense offside. They weren't actually going to run anything, and he jumped off sides. Fraley did say he's happy with him, and we'll get to the press conferences in just a minute. But, Ant, you haven't been on with us the last few weeks talking about OTAs. What's your impression of how the spring has gone?
I mean, most important thing is they're all healthy. Like, that's really all I care about at this time of year. I don't take no attention really to how they're doing. I mean, you talk about Hooker there and what he's been through. The whole hokey cokey's been done with Hooker already this offseason. Oh, he's playing great. Oh, he's playing bad. And it's just like, come on. The most important thing for most of these guys is they get through, they get into game shape, start, learn the fundamentals, get them good, and then you go into preseason. That's when you really start taking notice of what they do. So from that perspective, they're all healthy. That's all I really care about, especially with the veteran guys as well. There's a ton of them this year who need to prove their health in the long term. So, it's fine. I just don't really care about it as much as others do. But yeah, we're getting to the more interesting stuff next up. That's when I'll really start paying attention to what these guys are doing in practice. But yeah, it's been okay so far.
All right. Ash, any thoughts on those little bits and pieces there?
I'm really intrigued by Davis flashing as a punt returner. This is someone who, if you've got X, I did ask Eric when he put the call out for questions, I did ask about this receiver battle, and I mentioned Davis as someone I wanted to hear about. So this is a guy obviously used to play for Michigan Panthers. We've signed him after he's tried out in rookie camp, and he's slowly but surely making his way up the depth chart. So there's someone who could sneak in at the bottom and really surprise us in preseason.
All right, press conferences. I mentioned that we had at the podium a lot of the assistant coaches underneath the coordinators. And on the defense, we had Terrell Williams. On the defensive line, Jim O'Neill, who's described as a general defensive assistant, but he's actually working with the safeties. Deshae Townsend, who's the defensive pass game coordinator and a DB's coach. And Kelvin Shepard at linebacker. For the offensive assistants, we had Hank Fraley, the O-line coach, Steve Hyden, the tight end coach, Antoine Randall L for wide receivers, Tanner Engstrand as the pass game coordinator, and then for the players, the shortest one of the OTAs so far, we just had Ennis Rakestraw and Colby Sorsdal very, very briefly. So just to give you some cliff notes on what these guys are talking about. I mean, talking to the assistants, these guys aren't put in front of the podium very often. They're a bit more unfiltered, and I actually think that these were some of the more illuminating press conferences that we had compared to the DCs, OCs, head coaches that are manicured at this sort of thing. Maybe Dan Campbell's not the most manicured person in the world, but even so, they don't reveal some things, and then some of these assistants, they just can't help themselves, and it's quite refreshing to hear, actually. So Terrell Williams, he started talking, I know this is a very experienced man, so maybe not true of him, but saying that he thinks that Alim, there's a lot more to come from him, that he don't think he's anywhere near his ceiling yet. Highlighted Levi, someone that he thinks got a lot better this spring. Broderick and Pascal as well. He thinks the biggest area that Matt can improve is just the consistency, that he's flashed the high-end stuff, but just not done it every single rep, and it just comes with practice. I think Broderick Martin is still a rookie in his mind, that he's developmental, but he sees that as a positive, and it's hard to judge nose tackles without pads on. He said that it was a lot of young dudes here, and that was one of the big reasons why he actually came to Detroit, but knowing the coaches helped as well. On Hutch, he said no one can do it by himself, and he's been unbelievable this offseason. He's made huge strides from even when I started here, which is a worrying sign for everyone else in the NFL. He said, but that's all on him. It's nothing to do with me. He puts in the time. He's a very coachable player. On Wingo, he said he's explosive, but understands his limits. He knows what he can use to his advantage. He'll be a very good run D player for us, which I thought was really interesting. Super excited about him. And he said about flexibility with his personnel, because he likes to kick the big guys outside and bring the smaller guys inside. I think we could see some really funky stuff on the defensive line this season. And he said, and I thought this was just interesting, because this is going to give a good ability for Aaron Glenn to do what he wants. He said, I can coach any scheme in any environment. I care and love the guys I coach, and if all they get from me is what's on the field, then I failed as a coach. Just really interesting to hear about how much he cares. I'll do one more and split this defensive one into two. So Jim O'Neill's next up. And I didn't realise how experienced he was, but he said it's his 22nd year coaching and 12th in the NFL. Well, he could have fooled me with his youthful looks. He looks like he's blooming freshman coach, for goodness sake. He said the whole place is special. Love the energy. He's been looking for this his entire career. He said every title on the defensive side of the ball, including defensive coordinator. About Melifonwu, he said he's still got a lot to learn, but had a great spring and a great end to last year. No Branch and Kirby at OTAs actually really helped him because it managed to get reps low and high at the safety position. On Branch, he said they're going to be more aggressive with him now that he's no longer a rookie. They didn't want to put too much on his plate last year, and he thinks he can be one of the best in the league. I'm sorry, did we not put a lot on Branch's plate? I didn't realise that, but never mind. Brandon Joseph, he said, I was actually with him for a year at Northwestern. He's had a really good spring. Everything for him will be about when the pads come on and how he tackles and about the run fit. So despite how well he's done in the spring, I think he thinks that the downsides for Joseph could show themselves at camp. And so it's for him to prove when it gets there. Kirby, so the great thing about him is he does those two things that scare quarterbacks. Takes the ball away and makes the middle of the field a scary place. He has those two traits. And he said, I was taking a year off last year, and I came for 2 OTAs last year. Dan didn't know me, but spent maybe 25 to 30 minutes with me twice then. And I was like, wow, that doesn't happen anywhere else in any other NFL building. Then at my interview, it was sitting down for about 4 to 5 hours with Dan, talking football philosophy and family. I've been searching for this my entire career. When asked why he came down for 2 OTAs, he just said he kind of wanted to stay a bridge of what was going on, but also get exposed to kind of some new ideas. And he said he could tell that we were going to be really, really good off the back of those 2 practices, which is interesting. I'm going to stop there. Any thoughts on Terrell Williams and Jim O'Neill? Because I think this is the first time we've seen Terrell Williams at the podium, and I think he's maybe the most anticipated of the coaching hires we've had this offseason. Either of you.
I'm going to go first. I guess I'll go. So it was very interesting hearing both of them talk, but Williams especially because that D-line is where we're really looking to improve. Like we know we've got the talent there. We've got Hutch, we've got Mack, we've got DJ Reader now. We've got Levi, who showed a lot of promise when we drafted him. Injuries have held him back. Wingo, kind of the same. Broderick Martin, he's got all the physical tools. Can you get the fundamentals down? So listen to him talk and sort of break down each player, as we've seen Mack, Broderick, everyone. Really interesting to get his insights on them and the putting the bigger guys on the outside, smaller guys inside, playing matchups basically. So if we're going into 1 week and we know a team's, I don't know, their right guard really struggles with quick step first quick step fitting there, a quick first step. Put a smaller guy inside. I know he wasn't really mentioned in the press conference, but someone we know is being lumped into the same room as Levi, Wingo right now is Pascal. Move him inside, see if we can do that because Pascal's got a really good first step. Maybe even Kamish. And then have someone like who's a true D tackle on the outside, sort of holding the gap and maybe using power against their right tackle if they struggle against that. So really playing that matchup game that we haven't really so far. No, obviously we've moved defensive fronts quite a bit over the past 3-4 years. But we're getting to the point now where we can be multiple on the front and the back, play those matchups. It'd be really fun to see that in pre-season, see what we do. And then listen to O'Neill, because this guy's been around the block so many times, and I didn't put it together with Brandon Joseph and Northwestern until he said it, and it makes sense though with what we know about Brandon Joseph in those years at Northwestern. Dude was an interception machine. He can hit. Just ask Ohio State fans about Brandon Joseph's tackling, I guess. But in the NFL, yes, it's going to be the run defense that's going to be the issue. Sound a bit familiar though? It's Kirby 2.0, baby. And that's what I like. We've got a true backup to Kirby now because we haven't really had that the past couple of years. When he's been injured or been in a bit of form, we haven't really had a true central fielder. So while it's good if he's getting the reps there and he's learning the coverage stuff, which is what he needs to improve on, having two guys who can play that true free safety role, because as much as we love to Tracy, for example, he wasn't that. It's really interesting to see him because he's gone from someone I had on the outside to start spring to now someone who's firmly on my 90, well, my 53. And then the same with Branch. I know obviously you said we didn't put much on his plate last year, but I think they mean for the most part we tried to just keep him at slot corner. I know we played him a bit at safety, but this year we're going to be playing him at safety, both single high in the box, slot corner, outside corner, because now he's had that year under his belt in the league. He knows what's going to be in front of him. We can start doing those things that they did with him at Bama in the NFL. And we can use someone who is arguably our second best defender behind Hutch. We could start using him in matchups as well. So it's quite to listen to these two old heads in a way, because Kelvin Shep's only in his like third, fourth year as a linebacker coach in the league. Townsend's only 6 years in. These two guys who are veterans in it. Williams has been around for 10 years in the league. O'Neill 12 and 22 overall. Listen to see how they see the game and they see our defense was really good to listen to.
Yeah, so starting off Terrell Williams. I mean, there's one job he needs to do on this team this year. Like, I don't want him to mess around with this scheme, to which we had one of the best run defenses in the league last year. Like, on the interior, we were absolutely great. We've put DJ Reader in there, who is also one of the guys who's best at doing that. You've got to lean. Nothing needs to change there. We need to teach someone how to win one-on-one on the edge. That is what we've got to do, because no one has stood up with Aiden Hutchinson and made a mark on this team other than Houston. Houston can do it. Houston needs to stay healthy, but it's no time to get finicky and funky on there. It is get your edge rushers and teach them. Teach them to win these one-on-ones. Teach them to make plays. Get someone to stand up opposite Hutch and make an impact on this team. That's all he needs to do this year. If he does that, our defensive line is going to be really damn good. So don't go playing around with guys. Don't go moving them here, there, and everywhere. This guy's here for a reason. We've got a really solid foundation on that line going into this year. Like I say, it's just building up the depth in that edge room. That's what he needs to do in regards to that. So, yeah, I get he can do this. He can implement all these systems. He can do all this. I'm just saying he's got a really good base to work with here. So you don't need to get too funky with it. Like I say, I just want to see some of these guys on the edge. Obviously, they need to stay healthy first and foremost, but they've got to stand up and they've got to be better against, these guys one-on-one. In terms of the secondary, I mean, you've got so much talent to work with this year, Jim O'Neill. I can imagine he's very excited being here. Like, it's just an insanely talented young room. I do agree. That whole stuff about Branch, it's like, we gave him a lot to do last year. Branch is our best player in the secondary by, I think, a long margin right now in terms of what has been done on this team. It's not even close how good he is, and he's just going to get better and better and better. And hopefully this year we can, with all these additions in the corner room, we can kind of almost not reduce it for him in a way, but we can play him more effectively rather than having to move him here, there, and everywhere. We can just sort of put him somewhere and let him go to work. So we know how great he is. Bring him up a bit more. We know he's good at doing that. It's going to be good stuff on there. And obviously, if he can get the best out of Iffy and Kirby, that's what we need. Like, we know how good individually these two players are. Now it's all about consistency. It's the name of the game with this. And it's been a secondary problem in years is consistency. I mean, individually, a lot of these guys are talented, but they just don't show it on a week-to-week basis. So that's going to be his biggest thing going forward. But as I said, very experienced. Come from places where DBs have been very well coached, fundamentally sound. So you're kind of hoping he's going to be able to bring that onto this team. So yeah, it's encouraging. Like, these are good guys we've got in, but you've kind of just sort of got to go out there and prove it now. It's the way with a lot of these guys. So we'll see. But yeah, it's good to hear.
I think the most interesting thing for me in the next couple of years is when Branch makes a transition from rookie that's still learning the fundamentals of the positions that he's playing into someone who's teaching and being that leader in the room, because I even think he might be able to do it this coming season. But he clearly sees the game far more quickly than maybe anyone else on defense, because Hutch, when the snap goes, he just has to beat the man in front of him. Like, that's instinctual in a completely different way. But Branch is surveying the entire field, and his instincts to I don't know. I mean, the thing for him that I always remember is him being able to beat screen passes. He just sees it more quickly than anyone else and manages to hit people. But the way he reads the game is far more in advance of anyone else there, including maybe even Alex. So when he can be the guy teaching everyone else exactly what he's seeing and to bring them along, that might be the single most transformative thing that this defense can have, because him getting the linebackers in place to get the D-line in place, it all comes from the back there. I can see him being a future captain of the team because of the way that he sees things. And when he talks, he's not the most loud guy. It's very considered, but everything he says is gold. And, you know, when he speaks, people are going to listen, because there's not going to be any wasted breath. And so I'm waiting for that day where he kind of takes up that mantle, and it puts a lot on his plate, and I'm expecting a lot from him. But he is already a great player for this team. So
I don't think there's anything to say that he wouldn't be doing that already. Like, we know Penne would have been doing it in year one. I know there's no doubt that Penne was doing it year one, but they're also humble enough to know when it's time for them to learn, but time to teach as well, given how versatile he is and what he does. And again, when you look at the resume of every single DB on this team, like, he's already like the standout guy there. Even the guys who are coming into this system, they've not played Lions football before. They've not played the way we do with the intensity we do. So I would assume he's doing this already.
yeah, no, that's fair. All right, second half of this press conference, Deshae Townsend, past game coordinator and DB coach, quite a short interview from him about the cornerback rookies. So about Arnold and Rakestraw, he said, they've both done some good and some bad stuff this spring. It's part of the learning curve. He said they've got a really feisty cornerback room with a bunch of guys all ready to prove that they deserve to be a starter, and they've all got to earn it, and it's basically a wide open competition. And about Maurice Norris, he said his athletic ability really flashes, his movement skills are off the charts. Now the biggest thing for him is, can he process the information given to him? Because if he does, then his ceiling's going to be very high. And Kelvin Shepherd, linebacker coach, about Jack Campbell, he said he's taken the minimum amount of time off in this off-season, which is very impressive because most guys go away for a little while, and it's really paying off for him right now. He's setting the tone defensively overall. He was one of my favourite combine interviews still. He's operating like an 8-year vet with how he's making the calls with the green dot. He's one of the most coachable players I've ever seen in my life, playing or coaching. He said it's a room that really cares about each other. They are lifting each other up and want each other to succeed. When it comes to taking reps, they are actively championing each other. If someone else is playing better, they want that person to get the reps and to highlight their ability because they are caring about each other in the room. And he's never been part of a team that acts like this. He said about the coaching staff, because they've carried on almost completely from where they were last year, it's not the same as it has been in previous years. They're on the 3, 4, 500 level with stuff already, not doing 101. They're not installing the basics. That they've got multiple really confident guys. They're all really tall guys, all able to get in the throwing lanes. They're walking out with swagger, bragging that they're going to lock these guys up and this and that. He's never been around a room that exudes this much confidence, and it's exciting for him to see. He said he expects Alex Anzalone to be an all-pro this year, that he's in the prime of his career. For the first time in his career, he's stacking healthy off-seasons back-to-back, and that's going to be the standard for him. And for Reader and Aleem, if they back up their talk, who's blocking the linebackers? It's going to make it really easy for Jack, Alex, and Derek. And a shout out especially to Levi, who's fought through injury the last few seasons, and it's finally paying off for him this spring. Boys, I'm throwing it back to you. And first this time, Townsend briefly, Shepherd, very interestingly about the linebackers, I think.
Yeah, I mean, Townsend stuff's what you expect right now. Rookies are doing good things, rookies are doing bad things. That's just part and parcel of what they do. Unless you're stupidly good, then, you know, you're going to have your ups and downs. That's the whole part of this. But for Kelvin, I mean, this is a really big year for Kelvin when you think about it, because obviously this is going to be year 2 of Jack Campbell. This is contract year for Derek Barnes. And it's kind of year when you want to decide whether you're going to run with Malcolm long term or not. Like this is a room that could be set up for the next 5, 6, 7 years with the personnel it's got, or alternatively, it could be the room next year that there's nobody there. If Anzalone's coming into that last year, and Barnes and Malcolm don't pan out, so. And we all love Shep. We all think very highly of him and his coaching ability. So he's right in terms of being able to utilize our guys, especially Barnes, if you finally have a pair of deep tackles who are going to be able to carve out lanes for guys to blitz and rush, where these guys are very happy and where these guys are able to make plays, then great. It's going to make us so much better, and it's going to relieve the pressure off the edges as well. So they've got a very important role this season. I mean, Anzalone been an All-Pro. Maybe a bit far. Anzalone's a very good player, and I've eaten my crow on this one since he was signed all those years ago. Anzalone is always going to be a very good player, and he's the exact guy you want leading that room. Like you wouldn't want anyone else there. Obviously, Campbell's going to be the focal point of that going forward for so long, and like more than most others, like his is the year to everybody's looking forward to seeing, because linebacker takes time to learn. Seen it with Barnes. You see it with every guy around the league, not named Micah Parsons, and he's an edge player. Like you don't get all-pro guys there year 1, year 2. It's a long transition, but we know how good he's going to be. He's going to be the leader of this defense for years to come. So, you just hope they're going to be able to work better as a unit this year. Like work with that defensive line, make more plays. And hopefully these guys develop to the point they need to. Because I say, we've got the personality. I want to keep this linebacker room for a very long time. Like these main 4 guys, I want to keep them here for as long as possible. So I love Shep. I hope this comes to fruition with him. And I'm looking forward to seeing it more than most positions this year, that room.
Yeah, I agree. So, yeah, Townsend said quite a lot of stuff you expect, but there's stuff about Norris. Again, someone kind of unheralded, cornerback out of Fresno State. I know we're going to mention it a bit later, but he's also been repping at safety as well, which is interesting. Maybe that's where that athletic ability is flashing, because instead of having to match and mirror a guy, you're having to read the game a lot more. So you have to be sort of quicker. As soon as you see something, you have to move on it. You don't have a reference point. So it's quite interesting to hear about him as well. And then, yeah, Shep, not only is he sort of coached up the room, but himself, he's grown over the past 4 years here. Like, remember him coming in to start this regime, and you're kind of like, I can see why he's here. Obviously, haven't done it for a year at LSU, but it also could be one that he'd be gone in 2 years, and 4 years later, he's turned this linebacker room around from one of the worst bit of our defense to arguably the strength last year. Like, that linebacker room was damn good last year, to the point where Malcolm, who had a really good rookie year, was a backup and was having to play fullback and do a load of special teams. So he's done a great job on this defense, and that's why he's now heralded as, if Glenn moves on, he'll be the guy that's probably the shoe-in to become the new DC. Not only because linebackers have to do a bit of everything, but also because he's got the personality to do that. And please, if Campbell has the year that we're expecting of him, God help the running backs in our division. Josh Jacobs is going to do naffle. Aaron Jones is going to do naffle. DeAndre Swift, he's going to have a rude return to Detroit. And Bears fans will soon realise that we were right to trade them away to the Eagles. It's going to be great this year. But I agree, this linebacker room could be anywhere next year, from everyone's still here and having a really good time to we're having to rebuild it again. And while they're the best room right now in terms of we know what we got, they're also the one with the greatest variance to where it could be in 12 months' time.
Many thanks to Lost Oceans on Twitch, subscribing at Tier 1 for their 15th month. Appreciate you, man. Thank you very much. All right, moving over to the offensive side of the ball, Hank Frady was first up, and talking about Kevin Zeitler, he said, despite him playing 13 years in this league, with us he's doing new things, new techniques, we could be using different cadence, different words for the same things. He's been here, along with the rookies, he's been professional, and it's been great for the room. For Manu, he said he's very pleased with him, as I alluded to earlier. He's learning a lot. We're changing him a lot. He's coachable when he wants to learn. He's open-minded and he's a hard worker. Things are starting to slow down for him, and the athleticism is starting to take over. On Colby Salisbury said, comfortable with him inside and out. not as a person, I mean literally on the offensive line. He said he's smart enough to do that. He's excited to see how much he's improved when he's in pads. Obviously a theme on the offensive and defensive line that you don't really know much yet. And on Saul, so he's not changed since he signed the new contract. He's glad for him to get paid. He's already another coach on the field, especially helping Colby at right tackle. He said he reminds him of Joe Thomas in his work ethic, which is high praise indeed. The Hall of Fame Browns left tackle.
Yep.
Left? Yeah, there you go. Steve Hayden next up. Very brief one from Steve, but he's one of the more interesting listens just in the way he talks about the game. Shane Zylstra said he hasn't missed a beat. He's moving the same way he was before his injury last season. And don't forget, before his injury, he really looked like he was threatening tight end 3. He was an absolute tear. So, coming back from the injury, it's great to hear that he's moving like that. On Brock Wright, he said he was absolutely fired up for him getting the deal. He embodies exactly what he wants players to look like and be like here. And he said it's all hands on deck with the H-back work on the entire room with no fullback here. Every one of the tight ends is going to have to learn how to do that. So, very interesting on that point. I will stop there. I know that was kind of brief, but just to split this up into 2 parts again. So, Ash, you first this time. Hank and Steve.
I'm going to start with the Joe Thomas comment because I know Hank didn't coach there when Joe was around, unless it was right at the end of Joe Thomas's, but he played with him, having been the centre there. So this is someone who's seen day in, day out, pretty much every second of the day, from the time that they clock in to the time they clock out. So for Saul to get that kind of praise already, with the off-the-field stuff as well, we already know he's one of, if not the best tackle in the league. The only one who really has an argument with him is Trent Williams, and even then, at this point, that's debatable. But the off-the-field stuff as well, great to hear, and obviously resources as well. We saw him, again, we actually see him do it last year. He played left guard for us, he played right guard, he had to play right tackle at points. I don't know now he's supposedly moving back out to tackle, as we'll come on to in a bit, but it's good to hear that he's kind of got that flexibility, because that's what we need from our backups. And if he's looking good at tackle, then that solves a problem for us, because outside of maybe ex-receiver, backup tackle is our biggest weakness right now. So if he can do that, we're great. Manu, if he's playing anything for us other than special teams this year, we've got to be worried. Like, I know he's got all the athletic gifts in the world, but the technique just isn't there. So yeah, if we can just keep getting them reps so he can get the technique down, get the muscle memory, and that'd be great. And then Zeitler, it's really good to hear him sort of being here as well, learning the playbook still, learning those cadences and those new phrases and that, because there's going to be a transition from what Baltimore uses to what we use. We do a bit more sort of zone blocking than Baltimore have done recently, though they are moving to that with obviously Lindenbaum, their centre, being a bit smaller than usual. And then with Hayden, it's good to hear from those. It is concerning, though, and I'm sure Ant will echo me here in a way, because we were both very high in this player coming out. It's a bit worrying for James Mitchell. He seems to be the odd guy out right now. Like, everyone else seems to be above him. Parker Hesse, Zylstra, Brock. It's becoming less and less likely that he's going to stick around past cut downs, which is sad, because he had a lot of upside coming out of Virginia Tech. Obviously had the ACL tear. Just needed a bit of work on, obviously, to rehab from the ACL and work a bit on his blocking technique, but unfortunately just hasn't come all together for him. And suppose if you listen to, especially Riz, his report of how it has gone, the movement skills just aren't there for him anymore. And if you can't really block to a high level with being that slow, you're on the outside looking in. So it's sad, but at the same time, it's at least a bit reassuring that Zylstra's come back from his injury. He unfortunately had a last training camp with a tackle from Khalil Dorsey with that movement skills, because he's kind of your smaller tight end who is the more likely guy to play that H-back kind of stuff, that and the move stuff, and be a true tight end. So it's nice to hear that at least we've got a real candidate there, because Zylstra this time last year was tight end 3. And it was only because that injury that he wasn't really around. So it's good to hear that he's back to that level.
Yeah, don't want to spoil our camp battle segment too soon, Ash. But what do you think, mate? Sorry.
So it's fine. In terms of Hank, again, not a lot that you wouldn't expect to hear at this point, like, Zeitler's still one of the best guards in the league at 35. Not surprised that he, you only get to that age by adapting and continuing to evolve your game and continuing to adapt to what your body can do, etc. He's going to be a critical cog for us this year. And then, talking about the rookies again, Manu, Sorsdal, there's a lot to like about them. I will say this, sort of discounting what Hank has said. This is a very big year for Hank Fraley. Like, we all know he's a good O-line coach, but I think this is going to be a year where he can distinguish himself from being very good to being elite, because the one thing, and I'll say this, he's never developed a day 3 player, or he's never developed a player later on in the draft. You look at your picks, Decker's a first round pick, Ragnar's a first round pick, Sewell's he's a number 1 overall pick who dropped to 7. Jonah Jackson's a 3rd round pick. Vitae was £50 million guard we got in. When you look at the makeup of this team, Zeitler is very clearly a bridge for 1 year to keep this team at a high level whilst we develop the long-term replacement on this team, which is going to be Mahogany, is it going to be Sorsdal? We don't know yet. You've also got the contract situation coming up with Taylor Decker. Can we afford to pay him? Are we going to want to pay him after another year? Or are we going to move Sewell across and we need a right tackler? And these guys he's got, Manu, Mahogany, Sorsdal, the late round picks. It's all very well saying these guys are learning their techniques, they're learning the fundamentals, but are you good enough to coach them to be a starter on this team? Because really, we've not invested heavily in the future of this offensive line, like with big draft picks. We've not like got first, second round guys sitting waiting to come through. We've gone the day 3 route. And in terms of Manu and Sorsdal, we've gone small school. Like, we've gone small school. These guys have the physical attributes. Can he teach them to have the technical attributes to go with it, which will make them league wide here and will make them great players? So, like, this is the year we need to see this start come into fruition. Maybe not with Manu, because, Christ, that's going to be 2 or 3 years for any guy to do that. But, like, Sorsdal's in year 2. We need to see him performing well this year. Like, Mahogany's insanely talented. I know he's rookie, but, I want to see these guys come in and start making impacts, because we talk about depth on this line. It's always been our Achilles heel. The depth on this line has just never been there. So it's great we've got these young guys in. It's great they're doing well. Can they take the next step forward without being a first-round pick with just God-given talent already on their side? That's all I'll say in regards to that. But, again, hopeful. I like these small school guys. I think they've got a lot to prove. Chip on the shoulder. You get them right, then you get them right in a big way. As for the tight ends, yeah, Ash is right. Mitchell's in a spot of bother, but, tight end is a room where, again, we need depth in there. Right, we need depth behind Laporte. Laporte is the GOAT. If Mitchell is currently tight end 4, 5, 6, whatever, then that's also a good problem to have, because, again, we're in OTAs, we're not in pads right now. If he gets into pads, he starts performing, starts getting back to what we know he can be, then that's going to create an intense amount of competition in that room, and hopefully, again, is going to push some of the cream to the top and give us better depth going forward. So if these guys are up on, if he can, come to it, it's a competitive room. And that's what we need, because, again, it's fleshing out the depth for this team to deal with the long season and the playoffs that we're now getting accustomed to. So, yeah, it's going to be really intriguing to see what happens with the Titans, and I'll not spoil my predictions just yet. So,
coming to wide receivers and pass game coordinator, Antoine Randall L and Tanner Engstrand. So Randall L. So JMO. Just about everything improved and is improving. One of the biggest things that he's improved is his play strength. He's not getting knocked off his routes. He's really working hard, and it's really paying off. So Carlton Davis has made a massive impact on the wide receiver room. He's a great guy to go against. On Amon-Ra, he said his work ethic hasn't changed since the contract. He leads over and over again. It's the small things that we can help with. He does the bigger stuff himself. He said the door is wide open for wide receiver 3 and the depth spots. He said Fountain has made some plays. Caden's made some plays. Josh was consistent, so that's what we need to replace. On Caden specifically, he said he's picked it up quickly and applied it on the field, and you can say the same about Isaiah Williams as well. And you can say that see that from the college film for Isaiah Williams. And for Raymond, he said he's an absolute pillar, and it's a blessing to have him. For Tanner Engstrand, long interview with him. He said he couldn't be happier to be in Detroit right now, but it was great to interview for OC jobs. It makes you realise where your convictions are. Said about the overall scheme and what he learned last year, that being consistent and taking the explosive plays is the priority. On Hooker, he said it's a big work in progress because at college he was basically just standing still like he was in concrete. Here, the footwork is in rhythm and we want it to kind of just naturally come. And when it does, you'll see the consistent improvement from him. He said the continuity in coaching is huge. Last year there were some new coaches, and sometimes the coaches were being coached on the scheme. This year we're straight into year 3 in the system. We all know what's expected of us and where we're going. And what do you make of those two?
Always fun listening to Randall L. I love listening to him. He's just such a font of knowledge about everything wide receiver based. But he makes some very good points in there, like the stuff about Carlton Davis been in and the level of corner opposition going up. Like, you know, we've talked for years about like the reason why Sewell's good, Hutch is good. Like, this is elite going up against elite. Like, this is, you know, iron beats iron, stuff like that. And that makes these players great. What we don't sometimes realize over the years, when it comes to the receivers and the corners, it's not iron versus iron. It's been, you know, stainless steel versus aluminium. Like, one that's been absolutely crap and one has been great. It's, you can only learn so much going up in practice against some of these, you know, guys who are in starting positions who quite frankly shouldn't be. You're not going up against high level opposition in training. Now that you've got a guy who's been there, done that, won a Super Bowl, etc., like, and now you've got the rookies in as well. Like, they've got a leader in there. It's going to be a lot tougher for these receivers to get free, to make plays, but in turn, that's going to make them better because they're going up against better competition now when it comes around to the season. You know, hopefully we're going to see the best of them because outside of Amon-Ra, who is just like, he's a freak of nature when it comes to the way he trains and develops. He doesn't need to go up again. He learns. Like, I just can't say enough about the way he trains and develops. Like, he doesn't need iron versus iron. He is just chunk of steel, isn't he? But it's very intriguing. Like, JMO is going to be great this year, and both these two guys have a responsibility for him. Like, Enstrang, he's the passing game coordinator. I mean, Christ, you've got to get him involved. Like, you have got to stop the whole moonball downfield shot stuff. You've got to put the ball in his hands. He's your best playmaker on his day, and he's the game changer on his day. And he has done just about everything to prove that he deserves a role in this team. And, you know, he's nothing like the team now has something to prove to him. He has nothing left to prove to this team. Like, they need to use him better. So it's great that the attitude in training is still there, that he's doing everything he needs to use him. Because we need receivers this year. People are saying our receivers are a problem. We all know JMO's a game changer on his day. No one else around the league sees it because they just see the drops and stuff like that. We know how good he is. So on those 2 points, you know, I hope both of them come through for him as well. And again, when you come to the depth charts, it just seems like there's really healthy competition here for these guys. You've got a few undrafted free agents coming in. You've got the roster bubble guys like DBJ, all that sort of stuff. This is positive. If some of these guys can come in, play well against the likes of Arnold and Davis, etc., then maybe we're going to be able to actually sort ourselves out a very competitive receiver room with depth as well, whilst having 2 stars, which would be great for us. Like, a lot of teams won't see it coming. So, you know, I trust Randall L to get this right. He's got a lot of talent to work with, and I think we're going to have a great receiver room come the year. I'm not worried about it like everyone else is trying to make out who's not a Lions fan. We'll be fine.
Ash?
Yeah, I agree. Like, I know I keep harping on about this X receiver position, but that's just because, to be honest, we definitely have talent there. I just want someone to rise to the top who's going to be that sort of big-bodied possession receiver because, yeah, we have Laporte and Amon-Ra who can do it on the inside. I know Amon-Ra can flex out to the outside as well, but I just want someone else on the outside for those 5 seconds left. We need a fade to the end zone kind of plays. So it's nice to hear. Obviously, Antoine Green's been getting some reps there. So has DPJ. Caden Davis has been rising. Fountain's been having good days as well. That's a really fun battle to watch. It's going to be watching in preseason. And yeah, Halvin Davis helped the receivers, especially on the outside, because as Randall L said in that interview, he's really physical. especially with the press, and it just means that they have to work a bit harder, get physical with him, and stop him disrupting their route. So it's good for those outside guys to go against that. I know Amara can do it, but getting JMO to go against that, because most of the time JMO's releases, he's had pretty easy ones, and if he's been pressed, he has been pressed out of the place. That's something to get to watch. And yeah, we've had a second year really in the role since obviously Ben got promoted to properly to OC. Chasing the explosive plays is priority, because we know we can, as he said, because we know we can do the stuff. We can almost not dink and dunk, but do the efficient stuff. Now it is time to get JMO involved, get Leaf back involved, because the amount of times that Matt was crying for him to get balls thrown at him last year with his speed, that's the kind of stuff we need now. We have that sort of solid foundation of we know what we can do. But the only way we're going to go from being a top 5 passing offense to top well above the Chiefs, above all these other teams, is by getting this explosive plays. So getting them is going to be great for stuff, because I know I follow loads of these random accounts, but especially early in the year, we weren't there in terms of EPA per play. We were not top 10. It was only later in the season, as got into groove, that stuff really came about. And even then, we were like 5th. Time to start getting that sort of early season form again. And again, I know we harp on about it. Coming out of the half, can we please score points? Please. So
Right, I'm going to rattle through the players. I don't think there was a huge amount of illuminating here. So if either of you want to come in on it, interrupt, because otherwise I'm just going to move on afterwards. It was Ennis Rakestraw and Colby Sawsdall. Rakestraw says the biggest challenge for him is actually learning the nickel position. In college, he only really did it on third down, where you were just worrying about the pass game. Here, he's having to learn the gap schemes on run fits, because he's doing it on early downs, which is a challenge. So Terrion's a great dude. Spent a lot of time with him in the pre-draft process, and his room is just opposite his where they're staying at the moment. Says you do feel like a rookie at the moment and learning a lot, but the trick is to not let it get too big for you. Best advice he's had on the field is to just to know, play the bookings. You don't know when your number's going to get called. Off the field is save your money, which is good advice for pretty much everyone. Plan for OTA after OTAs. Learn the playbook. Keep your weight at 191. Good stuff. Colby Sawsdall said adding to your resume of being able to do everything, and everything is important to him on the offensive line. Any way he can help the team, he's come. The difference from now to 12 months ago is maturity. He said given what happened last year, he knows what it takes to win now, how much more it's going to take to where they want to go. Just got to get the worker's hat on and get to it. And said you can't think out there, you just got to go. Last year it was a bit deer in the headlights, but it's different for everybody. Any comments, or should I move on?
191 is an interesting number. For 91, there's a specific reason why, with that and the person I'm comparing Rakestraw to, there's a reason 191 is going to be interesting.
All right, moving on to the cap battles. And I'll just go position by position, and we can say what we think is going to happen. So we're going to start with the offense. And is there any thoughts on the quarterback position? Obviously, Goff is number one. We know that, and he's got the new deal. Is there any thoughts about Hooker versus Sudfeld for 2? Because I know when Ryan was on last week, he alluded to the fact that he thought Sudfeld at the moment would be 2, because he's a bit more reliable playing essentially the pro-style offense. Are you guys thinking along the same lines, or is Hooker the 2 for you at this point, despite his struggles?
Sudfeld's the 2.
Yeah, it's kind of like we do over here in football. Like your backup goalie, it's not always like the young talented guy. It's the veteran, experienced guy who has that know-how to just be able to step into a situation and, even if you only need him for a little bit, you can put Hooker in the next week. But it's always a thing to generally have the experienced guy as the backup, as the better safety net. And I don't think that's not it's not a slight on Hooker either. That's just how it works. Like Hooker would start the next week over Sudfeld if anything happened to Goff, but specifically on the day, you keep Sudfeld in.
Scott Carson and Tom Heaton's ears are burning right now.
Hey, I mean, if they win 5 Super Bowls or whatever as backups, they won't care, will they? That's kind of what goes on.
Sorry if you're having any issues on the YouTube and Twitch. My internet's just decided to have a little bit of a moment, but hopefully it's going to calm down in a sec. I think Ant hit the nail on the head there. I was going to take some issue with what you guys were saying, and then Ant absolutely says what I was going to say, which is basically, I think that Hooker would start a game in relief of Goff. I think that Sudfeld would come in if Goff got injured during a game. If you need someone to come in and manage a game, maybe even from a winning position, I think Sudfeld offers a higher floor. But either player is probably going to lose the game as a starter, so you might as well blood your young guy. And I actually think that Hooker might well be the best course back. It wasn't good. So if you're talking about levels of not good, I'd rather take my punt on higher ceiling. So, all right.
And, if Goff gets injured at the start of the game, we can just go Sudfeld to go out there, fall over, and then invoke the emergency third QB role and send Hooker in anyhow.
True.
So, we can get over that. If he gets injured too early in a game, then there's ways around it. We should tell Hooker, Sudfeld to take a fall.
And the matchup really is up for 3 and 4, because 1 and 2 I think has to be locked up at this point. And for running back, some Vaki going on, and then for running back 4, Funk apparently has had a really good camp. Apparently Knight has showed off some good things, and Reynolds has been very consistent at running back 3. So where do you see the battles trending at the moment? What do you expect to happen, Ant?
I mean, it's tough. Like, if you're just going off like draft capital, you're like, well, you've got to use Vaki if that's where he's going to go on there. But Craig Reynolds has, I know I've not always been friends with him and what he's done, but he's done a lot for this team. Like, again and again and again, he's found a way to hang around. He's made some very big plays for us. And we talk with, about Varkey doing the whole blocking stuff and that. Well, we know Craig Reynolds can do that. Like, we've seen him do that. And then you've got Zonovan Knight, who has, NFL experience. He is a very good player. And I know I'm biased saying this, but, college allegiance and all. But at the same time, like, you can't discount him. Like, he's been there and done that. Sionavaki has not taken a rep in the NFL yet. Like, preseason's going to be really big for a guy like him, because I'm still just not sure where I see him overall and what he's going to do. So, like, it's tough. Like, logic says that Varkey will make the team because we gave up 2 draft picks for him and spent a third on him. But if it's coming, I don't want it to come at the expense of Knight or Reynolds. If 4.
Was it 4?
It's 3.
Or was it 3?
No. We gave up 2. We gave up 2 picks, didn't we? And then,
yeah.
Obviously, the pick we spent on him. But anywho, like, that would indicate that he's probably going to get on there. But I don't want it to come at the expense of Reynolds or Knight if they're both looking good. And Varkey is not looking as good in that position. So, like, I think Reynolds still goes through as 3. Like, he's just done too much here, and he means too much to this team. Again, you don't just discard these guys because you've spent draft picks on someone else. This is the point where, we're going to cut good players. We might risk losing good players, even if we've drafted them. It just depends who comes out on top. And Reynolds has been through far too much so far to just automatically assume he's not going to make it. And same with Zonovan Knight. He's looked good in his parts with us. So it's I think it will be Reynolds and Varkey at this point, but I'm not discounting Zonovan Knight at all.
Shock horror. I was expecting you to still try and get Jamal Jefferson onto the roster, but I guess
I'm not always biased. But even there's even a point for me where I can't defend it anymore. Hey, he's still here 4 years later, so I wasn't that wrong.
True. For me, it is Reynolds and Varkey as well. Like, Knight and Funk definitely have a way, especially maybe Funk, because he's going under the radar a bit. I think without outside the sort of organization, they maybe can sneak onto the practice squad. I wouldn't be surprised if we have one or both of them on there. Because, Knight, I know he's done it here in a couple of games he played here before he had that unfortunate injury, and he did it with the Jets as well. He's a damn good running back. You've got a solid floor with him. He's kind of like Reynolds in that way, where if you have to put him in for 10 to 15 carries, you're going to get about 3.54 yards a carry, maybe a good touchdown from him. That's about it. While Varkey has the higher upside. Funk's kind of the same, but just has had the experience, the opportunity. Was decent at Maryland, gets drafted by the Rams, kind of stuck around with them, has now come over. He's probably going to be like the sort of practice squad option. And yeah, unfortunately, Jamar, he had that great game with Pittsburgh in his rookie year, but the special teams and the pass blocking hasn't come. And the catching out of the backfield, unfortunately, he's definitely the man looking from the outside in right now.
Whoever doesn't make it, you're probably just going to see on the practice squad anyhow. I don't think none of them are that important that someone's going to poach them for their 53, so they probably all get their chance at some point.
I think Vaki's the only one who potentially might get poached because of his draft status. Like, people might take a flyer on him because of the unknown factor.
And because of the special teams.
Yeah. We'll see. Reynolds low-key, I think, is at risk. Because even though I didn't list him in the running back 4 battle, if Vaki does learn his stuff when it comes to pass pro to the point where he wins the running back 3 job, can I say that Reynolds is such a good special teams player that he deserves to be running back 4 with mostly special teams duties over someone else? I don't know.
I would still have him as 4 because while Knight is a good running back, Knight doesn't do the special team stuff. So for me, he still would make it as 4. I think, yeah, he's definitely at risk. If Knight can meet, or Knight or Funk shows that special team stuff as well. Let's say, I don't know, there's a punt return in preseason game 3 and Knight absolutely lays out the punt returner, then yeah, maybe Reynolds can be at risk. But I think Reynolds just gives you too much of a safe floor with, you know, what you're getting out of him, where kind of like what we were just saying with Sudfeld versus Hooker. If Monty goes down and you need someone to come in for the game and take those 10 carries that you've sort of schemed up for Monty, I'd rather give him to Reynolds than to Varkey or to Funk or to Knight, because you know what you're going to get out of Craig more than you get out of them.
Yeah, fair. Right, wide receivers. And I think that potentially 1 to 4 is sewn up in whatever way you kind of want to put them in. So obviously, Amon-Ra St. Brown is in there, Khalif Raymond is in there, Jameson Williams is in there, and why have I gone blank on number 4?
Anton Green.
Thank you. Oh, is Anton Green chalk at 4?
No.
I don't know. But anyway, there's a real battle in there between 4 to 6, and let's say 4 to 6, between the aforementioned, as well as Calhoun, Davis, Fountain, Kennedy, Donovan Peoples-Jones, Traycon Smith, and Isaiah Williams maybe going for, and I mean, it could be 5 only, it could be 6, it could be 7. We don't really know how many they're going to keep, but it's a very competitive environment. Some of these guys have had a really great spring. Some of them have done it in the NFL already. Some of them have done it in the NFL at teams that these coaches have been at before, but we haven't heard a huge amount from Traycon Smith in this spring. What do you guys make of this battle, Ash?
It's hard. For me, it's right now there's 3 contenders for the 2 spots. Actually, no, maybe that's the hard thing. Right now, for me, Williams is probably practice squad. Calhoun is street free agent. It's down to the other 4 because Smith, he's done it in the NFL, as we've said, with the Saints, with Dan Campbell. He's a good deep threat kind of guy. He's got a reliable floor. DPJ, we've obviously spent draft capital on, trading him from last year. We've signed him this year. He's been getting reps with the first team at X. He's definitely in the competition, but we know what we're getting from Kennedy. He's Mr. Reliable, always sticks around, been in the year. He's the new sort of Death Taxes, and you're back. It's Death Taxes and Tom Kennedy being on the Lions practice squad because he's that reliable. And then Davis and Fountain have had really good springs, and they're earning their way up the depth chart. So honestly, it's really hard to call right now. Right now, if I had to say 2 of them make it, it would be DPJ and it would be Davis, with Fountain and maybe Smith on the practice squad. But honestly, well, as I keep saying, this is the battle I'm going to be watching in pre-season, perhaps more than any other, because whoever wins out of those two could have real like starter level reps for us at some point in the season if JMO or a Khalif goes down. And then if Green doesn't work out, because I know obviously he's not listed here, he's probably still 4 just because we've drafted him last year. And right now he is the guy getting the X receiver snaps in spring. But if he doesn't play well, someone from this list could be starting 10 games for us this season, which is it's exciting but distressing at the same time.
Like, has Traquan Smith been hurt? Because given that, like, most spots in that wide receiver room are up for grabs, the guy who has bona fide NFL experience and has played well in parts for the Saints, and there's been complete radio silence on him. Like, complete. You have heard about nearly every receiver in that room at some point, but not Trey, to the point where I actually forgot he was on our roster until I checked. I'm like, oh, God, yeah, we signed him. Where's he been? That, again, I try not to take too much out of OTAs and stuff like this. It's just practicing and conditioning. But that is a worry that you're not even garnering any sort of news whatsoever, good or bad, for the record, when you're the NFL guy and you've got all these young rookies in who are going after things. So, like, I think by that alone, I think he's going to be in massive trouble. Like, if he's not putting all these guys to shame at this point, if he's not, like, at least making himself look good, then he's going to have a real hard part in the roster. Preseason's going to be the thing for them. Like, these guys going to have to show out in the preseason games, make some catches. That's how you'll work your way onto this team, if you can go out there and do it. But it's just incredibly tough because, you know, what are they going to go with? As you said, you've got your draft picks, you've got Green, you've got DPJ who's done it, you've got Traquan Smith who's done it, but no one's putting their name down. But then undrafted free agent guys are undrafted free agent guys for a reason. There's a long way to go. There's a lot of development to go. Can they make an impact for your year one to justify putting a spot on the roster? Maybe not necessarily. So I look at the list and it's one of the few where I don't know. Like, I can't really give you a definitive answer yet. Like, in an ideal world, I would love to take Antoine Green because he starts realizing his potential and his ability. And I would love to take DPJ because I think for what you've got, like, he's got a high ceiling for what we got him for, and he'll be a great part of a rotation for you. And we've seen in snippets that he can do it. Like, that would be the one I'd love. But outside of that, it's a cop-out, but I can't really give an answer at the minute. So it's going to be tough. I'd love to see Jalen Calhoun make it. I'm surprised the ACC bias did not show through there with Ash. Like, he's always pro-ACC unless they play well against FSU, but I don't think he ever did. So he should be all right with that one. But yeah, it's tough. Like, this is the one where we're going to have to watch and see the most. Like, say, for me, I think it's going to be those who separate themselves in the preseason games and actually make plays on the field, because it might just be too close off it to call.
At the end of the day, for me, there's 2 big winners from the spring, and they're actually guys I think that fit exactly what we want, and investment be damned. Davis, Fountain. You guys have absolutely smashed it, and I mean, there's no reason to think Kennedy's going to stick around. DPJ, Ant is right, is the one that you want to work out the most because the guy's had like a 900-yard season in the NFL. Like, he can do it. But, it's like trying to hope that shit Bears wide receiver is going to come good eventually, whatever his name is.
Chase Claypool.
Is Maurice... I know I've been away from it. Is Maurice Alexander not involved anymore? Because you've got to figure that with the way that things are going to go, especially with kickoffs and that, these guys...
Yeah, I don't know why
he'll be able to insert himself in that fight as well. So you've got to figure that, like, these guys on returns are going to get leg ups as well.
And Alec, if we want Hooker to do well in game situations, Alexander's the guy to keep around because supposedly him and Alexander, they've had the best chemistry out of the second team because 100%. Alexander's such a good route runner and that. So, yeah, Alexander, God, I forgot about him. There's someone that's practice squad at the least.
I assumed he'd just been cut or something because he's not been here, there, and everywhere.
No, and he's done very, very well this spring as well. He's probably been the third best guy out of the ones that we've listed. Maybe even second above Fountain, I'm not sure. But Davis has just jumped off the page so much he's hard to ignore.
Yeah.
Right, tight ends. 1 and 2, I think, is chalk after giving Brock the new deal and Sam Laporta being the GOAT, as Ant said earlier. But 3 and maybe 4 positions are up for grabs, depending on how many we keep, with no fullback. And the new change in the special teams rules, tight end 4 looks like a real possibility. And we've got 4 tight ends vying for those 2 spots that it could be in Hesse, McKeown, Mitchell, and Zylstra. What do you think, boys? Because you're saying like Mitchell might not get there, but it's a straight fight 2 out of 3 with those guys, I think.
Honestly, I think McLeon's got a chance because of that special team stuff.
Really?
Yes. This is a guy who's played a load of special team snaps in the league with, admittedly, with Dallas, but the fact, I know, and maybe it is because we've heard so much bad about Mitchell from all these sources, but we have, and maybe we haven't, but we haven't heard anything about McKeon. I forgot he was here until I was sort of looking into things with Jeremy's article part today about the 10 things he's learned from camp. We haven't really heard much about him, but because of that special teams experience, it could be like, oh God, the guy we signed Garrett Griffin, we signed from the Saints a couple of years ago. Exactly, but like sort of just someone we know, like. But even then, he's 5 out of 6. Mr. Retirement himself, yes. But even then, McKeon's 5 out of 6 for me. I think it's Hesse is 3 and Zylstra is 4 because I know we've been saying with the wide receivers just that there's a load of risers there. We've heard so much good about Hesse that it's surprising. Like, there's just jokes that Iowa had so many good pass catches that they had one playing linebacker and still they could only score 3 points a game. Hess has really made a name for himself in this camp, and I think he's rose to tight end 3. And then we've heard good from Zylstra as well. So, and he can play the H-back role, being the sort of smaller, sort of move style tight end he is. That, yeah, them 4 make it. McKeon to the practice squad, and unfortunately, Mitchell is a street free agent.
Again, it's very difficult because, you know, you've got guys who are flashing in camp, but this is camp. And we've seen lots of players flash over the years and not make it. And, you know, they do have to be a certain level of good to replace James Mitchell. For however bad he might be doing or might not be doing, I don't know. You're still going to have to be pretty good to knock him off the roster, because he can be a good receiver in there. He can do good work in that tight end role. So again, this is probably one that's going to be decided, especially going into the big camps and into preseason games, you know, showing that you are adapting. Like, if these rookies can show that they're adapting to the offense, they're making good plays, they're blocking well, then they'll be like, right, well, maybe we'll take these guys forward. And Mitchell needs to prove himself as well. Ideally in the world, I'd love to take him as 3, but, you know, I'm very much on record as being very emotional when it comes to my decisions and attachments to players, and that's just who I am. That's why people love me the way I am. You know, I stick with these guys, and, you know, you grow an attachment to them. So I do hope there is still a place here for him, and I think it's going to take one hell of an effort from one of the newbies to knock him out. Because, like I say, you have to improve the spots on your roster, and what he can be, one of these other guys like Hesse. Is it Hesse or is it Hesse? If it's Hesse, if it was Hesse, I'd have put him in the team just for the content. But, you know, but yeah, I would still like to think Mitchell will make it, but that's just more my emotional attachment to him rather than taking stock with what's in front of me. But we'll see again in preseason.
Right, offensive line, I think, and this is tough, but I think 1 through 7 is potentially chalk, with the 5 starters including Zeitler, with Sorsdal, and I'm also going to say, who was 7 actually? Who did I say was going to be 7?
Sorsdal.
No, it says Sorsdal already.
Awashika?
Not Mahogany, not Manu. Why did I say that 7 was going to be chalk? That's very annoying. Sorry.
Who's missing?
This is why I say that I should have listed out everyone as opposed to just listing the battle, because that doesn't help me very much.
You're putting Big Skip in your front 7?
No.
No Skip's there. Oh.
Maybe I've just made a mistake and it is
Yeah, it should be 7 to 10.
7 to 10. Okay. 7 to 10. Then there's 4 spots up for grabs potentially. I mean, we could keep 9. We could keep 10. Depends on how they feel. But in the battle for those spots are Skipper, Nice, Manu, Mahogany, Galvin, Clemens, Muti, Farniok, Awashika, Hudson, and Aguakun. Obviously, they're all playing various spots. So Skipper is tackle and offensive sixth man, really. He can play a bit of guard. We've seen him play guard in the NFL, but ideally, he's just a bit big for that. You'd like him to play tackle only. Manu's tackle, but I guess you're going to cross-train him wherever you fancy. Galvin is tackle only. I think that's it for your tackles. Your guards, you've got Manu who can play it a bit and is cross-training there. Mahogany is playing there only. Awashika's playing there only. And then Nice, I think, or Niesa, whatever his name is. Nisha, thank you, as a guard as well, I think. And then centres, you've got...
You can do, but he's an interior buy.
Right, and then and Muti's a guard as well, isn't he? And
yeah.
Then centres, you've got Clemens, Hudson, and Aguakun. So lots of players for different spots, some with various levels of flexibility, which is going to be really key for these depth positions. Who before going into camp do you think has got the leg up at this situation, Ant?
Again, Skip probably goes. Like, at this point, you need someone who, and plus, like, it's not just his part of like his role as depth player. Like, they have packages for him now where they'll bring him in and use him. So schematically, and he's a guy you can trust.
Like, the John Cena package.
He's got the "you can't see me" ineligible, Mr. Ineligible. But no, I think you take Skip for familiarity, knows the system, knows the team, certain package. You bring him in. I would like to say Mahogany's a lock because he is insanely talented. And again, we need young prospects on this line and we need to be developing the next generation of players. He's going to be that. You can play both guard positions. So again, quite versatile there. We're going to need one because we need someone to replace Seidler next year. So I'm going to assume unless something really bad happens, unless an injury flares up again or something, then he's going to be in there. I would take Awashika as well. Like, I've grown on him over time. I think he's very serviceable. You need serviceable depth in this league. I have no problem with him coming in, taking nearly a game's worth of snaps if we need him to. I think he's developed well, and he will fill that role in pretty well. And then outside of that, again, it's a lot of names in there. It's very tough. I would like to see Connor Galvin in there. I do like Connor Galvin a lot. I know positional versatility, etc. with him, but I do like a guy who can, he's left tackle trained. You want a good guy who can play in there if need be. I know if Deco went down, Sewell might come across, etc. But the way he plays, the style he plays, he's very good in the run game. I'd like to keep him around. I think he's someone who you can mold into a depth piece over time. And obviously he's already spent a year here, so hopefully he's going to take a year 2 step forward. Like they would be the ones I would like to take in there as for sure going into the season.
Yeah, so 7 to 9, I agree completely with Van. Skip's got to be here because he's right now the best reserve tackle we've got. We have packages for him. Team loves him. Mahogany, stick around because he's your top sort of backup at right guard, and yeah, he's going to hopefully be Zeitler's eventual replacement. More on that, hopefully later this week from me. And Arashika is probably our most experienced guard, at least at left, and he does have a bit of tax flexibility. I think he's played there a couple of games for the Eagles during his before he came here. So if we really need to push him on there, we can. And then obviously Sorsdal's going to be around as your top right tackle and then interior reserve as well. But I think Manu also sticks around just because we know if you cut him, he's going to get picked up instantly by like the Eagles or someone. We can't risk him, unfortunately, hitting waivers. So they're going to stick around. And then someone like Galvin, Muti, and one of Hudson or Clemens makes the practice squad for me because right now, yes, we've got Graham as a backup centre. But other than that, we don't really have anyone, so we need one of them to stick around, because right now they're the best reserve centres we have in camp. I know the UDFAs, which is why I'm hoping we can sneak them to the practice squad. And I think right now it'd probably be Hudson that sneaks through, but I do like Clemens as well. Then a Muti, veteran guy, but was low enough to obviously get cut by the Raiders and get picked up by us. So he's someone we can probably sneak through as one of sort of like vet spots in the practice squad in case the shit really hits the fan and we need someone to call it for a game or two from the practice squad, because I don't know, Graham's gone down long term and we don't think we can trust Arasika there for a couple of games if we're going up against a team with a really good interior, for instance, like Green Bay, then we can call him up. But yeah, right now for me, the sort of four guys making it as reserves: Skip, Sorsdal, Manu, and Mahogany.
Moving on to the defence, and DT1 and 2 seem like a lock with DJ Reader and Aleem McNeil. But 3 to 4 is up for grabs with Martin, Levi, Pico, Smith, and Wingo in there. And I mean, are we going to have to keep 5? Because I want to keep 3 of them. And maybe this is one of the harder decisions, because historically in the interior, we only keep 4. I'm not including Kaminsky here, who can definitely kick inside. So, I mean, is 4 overkill? I think we only kept 3 last year, but I want to keep 5 this time. What do you guys think? Ash?
Yeah, it's difficult because Martin we definitely want to keep around because he's a good developmental guy. Levi and Wingo, we've drafted. Levi's finally, hopefully, making that step up with all the injuries and that, putting the weight back on. Wingo we've just drafted. So we want to keep those guys, and then Pico and Smith, probably by practice squad at the best. But yeah, I really want to keep 5 as well, which means then we're probably going to have to lose a guy on the outside, as we'll come to in a minute, with that next battle. So how does with Pascal as well, because he's someone that's getting mentioned on the interior, does he mean that Levi's on the outside? Because we're definitely probably keeping Martin as our top backup nose tackle, and we've just drafted Wingo, and if we cut him, he's probably going to get picked up, so we're going to have to keep him. So is Levi, as much as he's getting the praise right now in camp, is he at risk of losing his spot on the team? Maybe, but I'd rather... haven't seen... I want to keep him around because obviously we had enough investment in to draft him in the second round, despite us knowing he had the medical problems. Like above Aleem as well, which suggests that the team really likes him. But it might be one of them where we have to debate between keeping him and then someone in that edge room that might just be a bit better. It's really tough right now.
Martin, right. So first and foremost, like, this stuff around Broderick needs to stop. Like, the people who think he might be in danger, the people who are disappointed in him, it's like, Jesus Christ, guys. Take one look at his college resume and you tell me he should have been starting games and playing last year, then you don't know what you're talking about. He's just the jump in opposition. It's like Sorsdal. We saw what happened to Sorsdal in this team last year, completely out of his depth and learning like on the fly. He talked about being a guy in headlights. It's the same for Broderick as well. This is a development pick by Holmes. This is what's going to pay off in 2 or 3 years' time. You want to see him a bit more this year, but we drafted him for a reason. We spent 4 picks on him for a reason, for what he is going to be going forward. He is going to be on this team. He has had a year to acclimatize. We've heard that the body shape is like he's doing what he needs to do physically, which is what this whole first part of OTAs and everything is about, getting in shape, showing the right attitude. He's doing all he needs to. He's going to be on this team. He's going to be just fine. Outside of that, again, you really want Levi to be the guy in there. But, we kind of saw it last year where he did all right, and then you were like, it just smacks of the Sean Hand again. Do you keep waiting? And I was on record as saying we should have got rid of him years before we did, because it just very clearly wasn't working. And unfortunately, I love Levi. I just get those vibes around him that the injuries are never going to subside enough for him to reach his full potential. So at some point you have to move on. But again, if he knocks this offseason out the park and keeps on doing as he is, then absolutely I'm taking him at 4. Because I don't need to play him a lot of the time. Reader and McNeil will take a lot of the snaps. I can use him situationally. I can try and work him into the team, keep him healthy. And if he's going to be DT4 on your roster and he's healthy and he's playing well, your DT room is incredibly healthy. So you kind of want to do that. But outside of that, outside of the other guys, obviously Wingo we've drafted. I'm on record as saying I don't like it. But, if they obviously have a plan of what he can be on this team, and if that comes to fruition and he shows it, he'll work his way on there, probably in Levi's favor. I think it's between Levi and Wingo for that 4th spot. I don't think we're going to take 5. I'm with you, Matt. I'd like to take more of them because I'd like to be able to harness all that talent on there. But, we're talking about the receiver room in depth. We're talking about the running back. We're going to have to make cuts somewhere. And as already been said, we can push in guys like Commission Pascal, if need be, to help out with some reps in there. Like, it's kind of where we can get away with it almost. So Broderick's 3, easy. He's making the roster. There's no competition. Then it's Levi and Wingo. They'll fight it out. May the best man win.
Where it gets so fun, isn't it? Because I think it's going to be Martin is safe, and Wingo and Levi fight it out for 4. But I don't think that's the end of the road for the person who ends 5, because the way Terrell Williams spoke about kicking a big guy outside, and he was talking about both Levi and Wingo, that I wouldn't be surprised to see a guy who has flexibility at edge, who can't kick inside, who might be a Sam, otherwise, to be in danger. So it might be, if we assume that, say, Levi is the odd one out as not a recent draft pick, that it could be that it's a fight between Levi and Houston or Agude or Betts, potentially, because they're the kind of Sam type guys that we're talking about. And moving on to edge, let's have that conversation now, because obviously the Lions are... They have their own edge players at the moment that, well, some are more chalk than others potentially, but Hutchinson is the clear one. Pascal is maybe the starter on the other side, but I don't know. It's going to be tough. Marcus Davenport is now in the room, and we also now have, who else did I think was a clear guy in the room? Wish I had this all in front of me.
That's it. You've listed everyone else, I think, on the depth chart in those spots.
Fine. So the rest of the guys in there, defensive end / Sam linebacker. We've got Lynn, Ukwu, Houston, Agude, Betts. That's it. There's flexibility between these guys and the Sam guys. So just lumping them all in together. Some are speed rushes, some are bigger, kind of linebackery, edgy types. But this is D 4 to 6, or outside linebacker 4 to 6. And how many of these do we keep? Because I kind of feel bad including Kaminsky here. Is he safe at number 4? Well, he's in the second year of a 2-year deal that's paying him a lot of money, with a lot of cap space coming back if we cut him. So, although I don't think his play merits being on the bubble, I do think the amount of cap space you get back for him puts him in there. And I think the deal he signed was designed to do that. So I think you do have to say that he's not chalk right now, although I think he's probably the first guy in this group. But Ash, what do you think about this group of players? Because this might be the one that's closest overall in some of these depth positions, and one of those that maybe has the highest ceilings and lowest floors.
Yeah. So this is why I think partly why we're sort of lumping, we can put Levi and Wingo in here as well, because if Kamish goes because of that price tag, we don't really have anyone else in the edge room who can fill that kind of role, because as much as I think Lynn's skill set would fit that role, he's 260 pounds. He needs to put a bit of weight on. And the others are all speed rushers who are best fits at that Sam role. So honestly, if Kamish goes, we need to keep the other one who loses that DT role. They go to the backup to Pascal's role. And then you have Obviously, Hutch and Davenport are your sort of at the open end kind of thing. And then, honestly, and it pains me to say this because obviously we love Houston. I love Houston pieces. The Mario jump speed move he did on the Bills left, Dion Dawkins in that Thanksgiving game will always live in infamy. But unfortunately, I don't think he's progressed enough to become a full-time starter at that Sam role. And because of the injury and because of some of the other players, namely Agude, supposedly playing really well in camp, I think we keep Agude in that role, and then maybe Houston, if he can just show a bit of the run defense. We know he's never going to be a coverage guy. None of these guys are going to be coverage guys. So hopefully we stop doing that. As I keep saying, stop putting the Sam in coverage. Just have it as your pass rush and extra run defender role when we sort of go to those odd fronts. It's them two. Kamish is gone because of the price tag. Betts Betts probably goes back to the CFL. And then you have either Ukwu or Lin, who are both obviously UDFAs. One of them stick around in the practice squad. I'm leaning Lin right now because, as I said, if you put £15 on him, you can maybe get him to play sort of more 2-point, 3-point sort of hands in the dirt kind of role. But honestly, again, this is one that you're going to have to watch when the pads start coming on and in the preseason games, because right now, outside of obviously the three we named, and then maybe Kamish, if you're okay keeping him and as a backup with that price tag, we really do not know how this edge room is going to turn out, which is kind of scary because right now it seems Sam is sticking around. That's the other question I've asked Eric to hopefully answer on either Pride of Choice or the Short Lines breakdown. What's going to happen with the Sam role? Because if we're keeping that, then yeah, we need someone who we can trust there. And as much, Houston's still the lead in the clubhouse there, but Mitchell Agude is really pushing him right now for me.
Just to quickly follow up, Ash, if Kaminsky took a slight pay cut, does that make it easier for him to stick around for you? Okay.
Yes.
What do you think about this room? Because it's one of the more competitive ones.
It's a room where we need someone to stand out, quite frankly. And this goes all the way up to DN too. You know, you include Davenport and Pascal in this. Like Davenport, Pascal, and Hughes. This has the potential to be a great defensive end room if Pascal, Houston, and everyone, if they're healthy, and Davenport, if they are healthy and play the way we know they can, then you've got a very deep room all of a sudden and a very potent room all of a sudden. But that's the thing. It's the health and it's the consistency with all of them. And ultimately, it's going to be whoever can stay the healthiest and the most consistent who will make this roster. I mean, I know we've given lots of money to Davenport and that, but, he's not done anything in recent history that suggests he should just walk his way onto this team. I know he's probably going to, but, if the other guys are showing more, then, I think his place is up for grabs as well. I think everyone outside of Houston, if the situation's right, you're talking about their spot on the roster outside of Hutch. Sorry, not Houston. In terms of Houston, you keep him. He has more pass rushing talent in his little finger than the rest of them do combined. And we've seen him. His ability to change games is unmatched outside of Hutchinson. Now, injuries have kind of banjaxed this, and again, a bit of inconsistency, but he's not had a healthy preseason. He's not been able to go through the routes like he has now. He's a game changer. You don't overthink this. You don't look, just because everything else with him might not be up to scratch, he is still the guy who can go out and take a game by the scruff of its neck, opposite Hutch. You're just overthinking here. Any of these other guys, unless they're showing something profoundly brilliant with what they're doing, they're not going to touch him. Houston's going to be in this team, and we need to keep him. This would be his year. This would be his year where it makes or breaks him. But you don't get rid of someone with that much God-given talent at all. Outside of him, I mean, like I said, it's a toss-up, really. Lin, Ukwu, Kamish is a weird one. It just last year was so disappointing. Like we really, really needed him last year, and he just didn't replicate what we know he can do. But at the same time, he's a tough bastard who can be a great player on this team. Again, we've seen with Commission Houston, we've seen what they can do for this team. So it's kind of, do you go with the proven commodity if they can stay healthy, or do you just say, a bit too much money, etc. But I wouldn't take the money into consideration with him. We've got a healthy cap situation. We've got a very healthy cap situation. We don't need to make these fringe decisions for the sake of a few million and go, oh, well, let's get rid of this to make even more cap, because we've got plenty next year. We can let the contract run. We can give him one more year to see what happens. And, because then if he plays well, it's better for this team. So again, I would be leaning on the guys who've got the experience here on this team in this case to make the roster. Betts is a great story, but he's Tom Kennedy. Like, most of our first team offensive line has not been practicing against him yet when he was doing all that good stuff in early season. Like, you're going up against the rookies and that. There's a difference. There's such a difference between playing in the season. That's why Manu's not going to see the field this year unless something really bad happens with our depth, because that jump is just way too big. And I don't think Betts is going to come in and just be amazing off the bat, or even a rotational part off the bat. Like, for me, you've got guys who've been on this team and have performed. It's, for most part, all about the health with them and, what they can be going forward. But I would take that gamble with them right now.
Moving on to the inside linebacker position, and maybe this is slightly controversial, I don't know. I have 4 in chalk, and they are Alex Anzalone, Derek Barnes, Jack Campbell, and Jalen Reeves-Maybin. Now, that might annoy some people, but I think that when Jalen Reeves-Maybin has played defense, I thought he's looked fantastic, but he also offers supreme special teams upside. Now, if you're talking about supreme special teams upside, you have to mention Malcolm Rodriguez, and I do think that he is almost chalk at linebacker 5, like close to as chalk as you can get, because super low ceiling, super high floor, like the consistent sort of guy that you just know exactly what you're going to get from him. You understand his drawbacks, but on special teams last year, he really proved himself to be one of the most effective players in the NFL doing that. So maybe 5 is locked up as well. And with the new rules, I think 6 are going to be kept. But the only 2 on the team are Neiman and Gilbert. And I do think, was it Strickland's played a bit of linebacker as well, potentially?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
What do you guys think? Are we going to keep 6? Do you think... Do you agree with the ranking in terms of Reeves-Maybin being ahead of Malcolm a little bit just because of what he brings to the team? Or are you the other way round? Wouldn't blame you either way. Do you think we keep 6? If so, who might it be? What do you make of it? I should direct that. Let's go Ash first.
I think we keep 6, and I think it's Malcolm and Neiman, because supposedly Gilbert hasn't been that good in camp yet. I know he's stuck around for some reason. Maybe it's because he has that flexibility to play linebacker and safety like he did in college. But Malcolm, great on special teams and can be a great run defender and blitzer on from the middle linebacker position if you need it. And Neiman, veteran guy, who's done a lot of special teams and in a pinch can give you 5 to 10 snaps as well. I'm keeping them 2. I'm not really overthinking it in this position. Unlike pretty much every other one, keep them 2. Gilbert, practice squad, or it's for the streets for you.
And
I just think there's a solid core of 5 here who are under no threat whatsoever. Like, I really don't care who linebacker 6 is, to be fair. Like, we've got 5 guys who are really good in there, and the depth is really good in the room. Just take the best special teamer outside of that and call it a day. Like,
fair.
Yeah.
All right, outside corner, we have an interesting battle across the board, because it's not just about the 53 here, but it is about who starts, who's the backups, and who's depth. So the starters, I think you're maybe looking at 2 out of 3 from Arnold, Davis, and Robertson at the moment. The backups, I think you're looking at Mosley, Rakestraw, and Vildor, depending on if Mosley can prove his fitness. And then the depth, you're looking at Dorsey, Gilmore, and Norris. But the problem is that when you do rank in special teams ability there, that really does bump up Dorsey and Gilmore into that backup stratosphere. And, both have shown some good things when called upon in the active roster. And, I mean, Mosley is the complete wild card, right? Because if he does prove his fitness, the guy was a cornerback 1 previously, and Rakestraw as well. Like, the guy hasn't been fit the entire spring. He's a draft pick. He's a second-round pick. There's no way he's missing out at this point. And he's, talking some good stuff at the podium. But at the same time, he hasn't really been talked about massively positively this spring. So, nothing said about Vildor really whatsoever in terms of good or bad. I really don't know where to go with this, but Ant, hopefully you're going to help me out.
I think you've pretty much got it spot on. I don't think I'd really change any of those rankings, to be fair. I would expect that is where you'll be at the start of the year. You'll have, you've invested draft picks and assets in the 2 guys you've bought in via trade, not just the ones you've actually drafted, but you've bought those guys in for a reason. We need good vets out on the field. And of course, we're going to put Terry and Arnold straight out there. The dude's just going to be, he's going to be the next branch in terms of, I reckon he's just going to seamlessly transition in there. Yeah, I can't really argue much. I would just say, though, that, like, I don't think Mosley's safe for this team, Not with his injury history. If you're right, if our starters are sewn up and we've got good backups, we've got Rackstraw in there, you've got guys who've been there. I don't think he's sewn up on this team. Obviously, if he stays healthy and fit, that's where he'll slot in. But I still think that's one to keep an eye out on. But you're not going to get any argument out of me with those, right? I think that's going to be pretty much what we'll do.
Ash?
Yeah, top 6, completely right. Obviously, with the asterisk next to Mosley, that if he's not fit, then he's got to go. I'd also keep Dorsey as that sort of 7th, and maybe with the special teams and that move him up to backups potentially, because this is a guy who started games for us last year. Missed it was only 2 and 3 because of injury, but he did do well in parts. And again, especially with the special teams, I know there's new rules, so maybe he has to adapt to that, and maybe he doesn't. But those stick around, and then out the other 2, because there's something we'll probably come on to in a minute with with me adding him into another spot as well. I'd keep Norris on the practice squad, and Gilmore is a toss-up to practice squad and let him go completely, because yes, he looked really good in last year's pre-season, but is he worth keeping around if he's not, kept him on the 53 for parts last year, but is he worth keeping around if we've got 7 guys in front of him now, potentially 8 if Norris really shows out in pre-season? Does that justify a roster spot? I really don't know.
Moving on to nickel corner, I think this is the biggest question mark of all, and not because the quality is bad, but because I have no idea what the bloody hell we're doing. The potential nickel players that we have, Branch is obvious, but it's very clear they want him to start potentially at safety this year. So where's he going to be at nickel? Well, maybe not the starter because he's going to be in a different position. Okay, fine. Robertson has been repping there in camp in part, but this is a guy who wants to be an outside corner, is an outside corner, is talking a good game about playing for the team and lining up wherever you want him to line up, and feisty enough to play it, absolutely physically looks like a nickel corner, but really genuinely is an outside corner, and you're putting him at nickel. Okay, fine. We've got Rakestraw. They have been cross-training him at nickel. He obviously said it was a bit of a learning curve for him because he didn't have to learn run fits at Mizzou before, so, that's potentially risky with a guy who hasn't done that a lot at the college level to come in in the NFL level and just play it off the bat. And then if you're really struggling, maybe for the starters, outside you go Davis and Robertson, you kick Arnold inside because he was actually recruited as a safety who had slot potential, who has played some nickel, and he's the guy day one who looks like the most capable, but you're actually grooming him to be the starting outside corner. I mean, it's weird because I like all 4 players, and if any of them are playing there, I'm kind of okay for it. And at the same time, there's drawbacks for all of them in that position. So, Ash, what's going on?
I think it's actually simpler than it sounds. On base, first and second down, Branch will be playing safety. But as soon as there's an office passing decision, or depending on the matchup, he will then move down and be a slot corner. And then you bring in Iffy or whoever as your safety behind him. But the good news is, no matter what happens, all 4 are going to be on the roster. If that's how we get Arnold in initially, because yes, we know eventually by the end of the year, it's probably going to start outside. But if you want to get him up to speed and not have him face wide receiver ones right off the bat, yeah, maybe get him some nickel snaps. Robinson, as we said, he's been repping there right now in camp. He's just technically a starter based on that. Well, obviously, Branch hasn't been at camp, so maybe that's why. And the same with Rakestraw, like it might actually turn out to be and because we're moving to a man scheme, it might be where we go matchup as well, where if you're playing a team that has a bigger slot receiver compared to your usual like 5'9", 5'10" guys, maybe, yeah, then you do move Arnold inside because he's best suited to match up in terms of that, in terms of body type. And then if you're playing a sort of guy who's a bit smaller, then yeah, you can use Robinson and Rakeshaw there. And then Branch obviously is a do-it-all guy. You can keep him at safety, you can bring him down. It really will be one of them where it'll probably depend on the week what happens. But for the most part, I think this is still Branch's role. It's just one of them where we'll line up in what appears to be big nickel with Branch, Iffy, and Kirby on the field. And then depending on how the opposition come out in terms of formation, that will determine whether Branch will then rotate down as a slot corner or stay as a sort of two-shell safety, and if he will play sort of a robber role in the box. It really be one of them, I think, where it depend snap to snap, matchup to matchup.
I love how you said, I think this one is more simple than you think, and then you gave the most complicated explanation of any of the positions that we've talked about so far. And simplify it for us, would you?
So, as people, I don't do the whole formation things as much as you guys do. For me, I keep this simple. I don't want to make this complicated because, quite frankly, we need to find talent in the secondary first. We're not good enough to be getting around with players in their positions. Branch was brought in to play a certain way. You know, we know how good Branch can be. I just play Branch at nickel. I'm going to play Kirby and Iffy at safety. Why? Because those are the two guys we want to come to the fore at safety this year. And it allows Branch to do what he does best. Keep it simple. Keep your best players on the field. Rakestraw, again, I'm on record. I don't like the Rakestraw pick. I don't think he's ready to start day one. I think he's going to take time to adapt to this league. I don't want to just start him there for the sake of starting him there. We drafted Branch for this. We've got two highly talented safeties who we want to play well this year. This is Kirby's third year. This is going to be the one where it's going to say, is he going to be after a massive contract or is he just going to be a rotation piece? We don't know. And if he carries on that form from last year, like he's one, he'll be one of the best safeties on the team. I want to keep this simple. I want to keep Branch there. I want to keep Kirby and Iffy at safety, and I'll have Terry on the outside. Just play these guys where they're most effective. Don't be clever and mess them around. Our secondary has been cheeks for years. I just want to see good secondary play first and foremost. Do not overcomplicate it for these guys. Don't teach them how to play 50 different positions and then watch them overload. Play your best guys at your best position, and let's watch them do well, because we're going to have a better we're going to have a better defensive line this year. It's going to be a bit easier for them. Just play your specialists where they're at the best. Don't go around.
I'm completely with you on what I would do in this situation. Like, I think you're totally right. And yeah, I just don't think that's the way they're going. I don't really understand the want to play Branch at safety. Like, maybe I can see the payoff in like 3 or 4 years' time where it's great to have someone that versatile. But right now, he's a top 5 nickel. It's like saying, and I don't want to flame too many people with this comment, it's like saying, well, let's just cut Decker and move Penace over to left tackle. And it's like, he's the best player in his position in the league. What are you doing? Why are we jigging this around when it's already really good? Like, Branch is a top 5 player in his position as a rookie. Just let him be that for a moment in time. Like, we've actually invested in outside corner. Amika's an outside corner. Play Amika outside corner. Like, he's actually been really feisty in the spring. Amika's been the one that surprised me the most, because I thought with all the investment we made in the draft, that he might actually be the one outside looking in. And I actually think now he's taking up the mantle from where Rakestraw I hoped would be, and isn't. And Amik is the guy that maybe starts day one with Carlton Davis, and Arnold coming off the bench to blood him in a little bit, but maybe taking 50-50 reps, and then, week 3, week 4, you have Arnold as a full-time starter. But I think that might be the way it goes. I don't want to put too much on Arnold's plate too quickly because he's been so impressive, but he's still a rookie, and I can't remember
Our
who we're
position
facing
to
week
learn.
1. But okay,
We
Cam's
have
Puka Nakua.
a gauntlet of wide receivers to start this season. Puka, Cup, Metcalf, Jefferson, some of the league's most elite receivers. Earlier with CD Lamb in there as well. Like, we can't just throw guys in there and just keep moving them. For me, Aaron Glenn has not earned the right to do that. He's got to show, first and foremost, that he can stop just guys gashing us in the passing game and receiver ones getting 100 yards on us every week. Don't make it too complicated for these young guys. Go out there, play them at the best, put your best foot forward. Trust these guys to win without having to try and tactically beat them. I trust their skill. Do I trust Terry and Arnold to go out there and lock down guys from a high, at a high level early on? I think so. He's going to have some bad days, but I would still trust him out there. I would not try and be tactically cute about it. I know they're not going to do this. This is just me, and I have an outdated method of thinking, but they have not earned the right to be stupid with moving these guys around. You have some great guys there. Just play Branch at nickel where he's really goddamn good and let him make plays. Let your safeties make plays. Let your outside corners make plays. Don't be cute. You've not earned the right to be.
See, I don't think they're being cute. I think they're trying to get their best 5 on the field at the same time. So right now, playing Branch at safety at least part of the time means you can get Arnold on the field. You can get Robinson on the field because right now...
Robertson, by the way. Said Robinson twice.
Robertson. Yeah, Robertson.
Yep.
I keep calling him Amir. His name's weird. I keep calling him Amir, not Amik. I don't know why.
Yeah. It's one of them.
Amir Robinson. Who's this guy?
Yeah, it's just one of those names that's this odd outlier that you can't... I don't know why.
Yeah.
And maybe this conversation is going to a bit in what we're discussing with the safeties, but I think the team right now, yes, if he looked really good at the end of last season, but that was in certain ways. And when it comes to coverage, he's not there yet. So I think in terms of coverage situations, they want to play Branch at safety and then bring on a Rakestraw or Robertson in the nickel because that gives you the best chance to stop the big plays and have your best 5 in coverage there. In terms of maybe, on base downs, and it goes kind of against what I've just said about Branch earlier, but on base downs where you have to defend the run, then have Branch at nickel, have Iffy at safety. But when it comes to, 3rd and 15, you put Branch at safety, you bring on whoever's going to be the backup nickel, and you go, because that gives you best coverage and then also gives you the chance, God forbid, if Branch gets hurt, you then have, because you've been training Robertson there, you've been training Rakestraw there, you've been training Arnold there, you have a better floor there. You're not suddenly going, oh, fuck, who the fuck we're going to play at nickel now Branch is injured. So I think for me, it's not just them trying to be cute. It's just them trying to work out how to get their 5 best players on the field all at the same time.
Yeah, that's fair.
I think Nickel at Branch still does it. I think if he is part of the best 5 right now, Rakestraw won't be just yet.
No, he definitely isn't.
It's a complicated thing. It's just complicated talking about it. It's like, let's just let the players go out there and play.
Yeah.
Let's just get a good secondary first, and then let's start playing around with it.
Well, and to complete the secondary, we're talking about Iffy. Let's talk safety, all the spots on safety, strong, free, single high, whatever you want it to be. Starters, I've got listed as Branch, Kirby, and Melifonwu. I mean, they've preached it about Branch, so I kind of have to include him here. Backups, I've got Brandon Joseph and CJ Moore. Depth, I've got Chellen Garnes, Lawrence Strickland, and Morris Norris. What do you think? I don't think the buckets are particularly in question here for those guys, but Joseph has had such a good spring that he's one of those guys where if Branch does start at safety, he's maybe the one that suffers rep-wise, and that seems a real shame when Joseph has been coming on. I mean, you've had Dan Campbell at the podium talking about how they were really sad for him that they couldn't get him on the field because of how well he came on down the stretch last year in practice. And now suddenly we're sticking one of the best players in the NFL in his position where he wasn't last year. Like, that seems just terrifically unfair. And CJ Moore, I know he's had a year out of the game and maybe that hurts him, but when he was called upon on defense 2 seasons ago, he was incredible for like 150 snaps or 200 snaps. He looked like not only was he just a core special teamer, but he was a legitimate part of the backup rotation because he could come on and do a really good job. And if he's not lost the step from being out, it's not like he had an injury and he was working out. So, can he come in and be a guy you can rely on back there? And are any of them under threat from the people behind them? I don't think so, but do we even carry 5? I mean, if we don't carry 5, is it Joseph or Moore that slips? I mean, I don't know. What do you guys make of it, Ant?
I don't think there's just take those top 5, regardless of how many you take, there's 5 guys and then there's a load of nothing. Your guys are gonna be in that 5 there, I think. Brandon Joseph's an intriguing one. His path post-draft, it's just been weird. He was really, really good in college. And he's a very good player, very physical player. And I'm surprised no one took a chance on him and picked him up. I think he does have the ability. And, the guys said last year they wanted to get him up. I think he was roster worthy last year. But hey, they've had a year with him. Again, to be able to learn the system, what we want from him, etc. I think it would be good to have him on the roster this year. If you're going to take 5, if the 53 allows for it, because again, we're talking about how many receivers we're taking, running backs we're taking. We've got to make cuts somewhere. This might be it, but I would take Brandon Joseph this year. I think that would be good for us, and I think he would be a good part of this team, especially for where he's going to be on the depth chart. I trust him to come in and take some snaps in relief if we need him to. I don't think there's any competition outside of this. It's just how many do you take? Having the likes of Branch on the team, I do think it sort of eliminates too much depth in the safety position because you kind of got a lot of guys who can move around and do bits. I mean,
it could be a decision between safety 5 and defensive tackle 5, and then do you want to keep Wingo or Levi or CJ Moore or Brandon Joseph, and you can only keep one?
Because we're not making an actual 53 now, we can't. I don't know where I'd call. This is just hypothetically, how many would you take? Obviously, they're going to take CJ Moore. They're going to do that at this point. My history's out there with him. I'm not going to argue it though. But I would take Joseph as well. So I would like to try and find a way to take all 5, if possible, because I think you might lose Joseph potentially. You might lose him because we've seen teams come in and hawk some of our guys. And if they're saying they want him up, they've kind of made it known now that they think he can work on this team. So that's almost putting a target on his back. I'd take 5 and take them all. I don't think anyone else is in this conversation.
Yeah, it's the same for me. And I saved this bit till we discussed it because it's specifically with this safety spot. Perhaps another reason we're saying Branch is a safety starter kind of thing is because out the other 4, 3 of them are single high guys. Kirby, best at single high, not so good in run defense. Brandon Joseph, rewind earlier to Jim O'Neill's comments, great coverage guy, not so good in run defense. CJ Moore, best as a single high safety, perhaps the best out of the 3 at run defense, but his best as a single high. So out of those 5 who I completely agree are the ones who are going to make the roster, you've only got really Iffy and Branch who can play the sort of more box role. So that's perhaps why we're also playing Branches, because if Iffy goes down with an injury again, that's a massive drop off to a Garnes or a Maurice Norris or Lawrence Strickland.
Yeah.
So we need someone else there. So that's why I think Branch is there, is because it just gives you that versatility. Instead of having three safeties and a strong safety, now you've got 2 and 3, and it looks a bit better. But for me, it's keep those 5. CJ makes it because of the special teams and the sort of veteran role, and then probably Norris onto the practice squad, and the other 2, I don't know. They haven't been getting rave reviews in camp, so they're probably for the streets.
Right. Moving on to special teamers, long snapper battle, Scott Daly, Hogan, Hatton. I'm sure Ant is just dying to flame me here, so go on, have at it.
I mean, that's a bit harsh on me. I was just going to say, let's pass it over to the long snapper. Let's let you go first, Matt. You have the most vested interest in this, so you're the guy who knows. Let's pass it to Matt first.
Well, I haven't seen Hatton snap, because I haven't seen any of the bloody tapes, so I don't know. If you believe what's being said out there, Hatton's had a better spring. So, it looks like Daly's in trouble. Ash, any further thoughts, or do you want to pass the buck as well?
No, I agree. Hatton's making the 53. Not only because he's supposed to be more consistent in camp, but with the new rules, Hatton's a better fit because before he transitioned fully to long snapper, as he said on the breakdown show, he's a former linebacker. This is a guy who got a safety and blocked a punt as a long snapper. And in these rules where you need your long snapper and your kicker to know how to tackle, which is part of the reason why the Chiefs are supposedly going to use Justin Reed on kickoffs from now on, which is going to be an interesting experiment. Hatton just makes the most sense. Like, Daly, you've served us well, but unfortunately not well enough. And we're looking to upgrade, and Hatton, unfortunately, is going to take over. And now the special teams unit as a whole is going to be known as Hogan's Heroes to me.
The king is dead. Long live the king. We alluded to the kicker battle earlier. Does anyone want to have any further words on Badgley versus Turner versus Bates?
Your namesake's winning right now.
One of you, please kick field goals competently in the NFL. That's all. I don't care who it is. I just want a competent kicker. It's Hanson's birthday today. Can we bring him back from retirement? Like, he'd still probably kick better.
Wheel him out with a Zimmer frame. I'm sure he can kick still.
Yeah, absolutely. I just want a competent kicker. I don't care who it is. Like, I just want someone who I can trust to kick field goals again. That would be nice. So kicker battles are not won right now. They'll be won during later camps or preseason, probably, where that kicker battle is going to be won. You would expect to see, multiple ones, but don't always just trust a big leg. Like Romo, if you wanted that, if you're big leg, you could have gone with Romo last year. He didn't get in. So just having a big leg doesn't mean you're automatically going to get in. So.
All right, that is our look ahead to the camp battles. Training camp is a month away or so as the players take some time off. So really looking forward to that and seeing what comes of it. We're going to work hard, I think, in the next 4 weeks to try and get some beat writers in to talk Lions, since they'll be having a little bit of downtime too. They've been super busy, of course, during the OTA period. We are now going to have a little bit of fun for the last 10 minutes of the show, where we're in aid of the European Championships of Soccer happening at the moment, and Austria are currently losing to France by 1-0 with 7 minutes to go. The UEFA European Championships for football is maybe the highest quality concentration of football in a competition you will see. I think that it's probably better value than the World Cup in terms of there just being quality and a concentration. Every game is competitive. Every team can win pretty much every game that they play, unless you're Scotland, in which case, sorry if you're Scottish, and Steve, who isn't Scottish but pretends. The
Americans can play cricket better than the Scots can play football.
Yeah.
You should have. I said that earlier.
Yeah. So we are picking an NFL side for a five-a-side soccer team. So if you don't know about five-a-side, one goalkeeper and then normally a defender, two midfielders and a striker. And we're just picking guys based on whatever you think is important for this. So I know that myself and Ash have got two teams ready to go for this. One NFL related and one Lions related only. I don't know, and if you need a little bit of time to consider this, so maybe me and Ash will go first and then you can think about a team.
Okay.
So Ash, who is your all NFL five-a-side NFL based soccer team?
So for me, I kind of went off what I want from each kind of position as a body type. So my goalkeeper, big, tall, so you can defend the goal, and good reflexes. So I went with Donald Parham Jr., the Chargers tight end, someone who is one of the tallest players in the league right now at 6'8". And when he came out into the league, he had elite explosive grades in terms of RAS. So there's your reflexes and your big and tall. So for me, Parham is between the sticks. In front of him, I wanted a hard hitter who has some good ball skills. So I went with the league leader in interceptions last year, the former Ravens and now Bengals safety, Geno Stone, who obviously led the league last year in interceptions. There's the ball skills, but also as a safety has shown good tackling skills and coming out of Iowa as well. Got to have that. My centre mids, it's all about technique, ball control, mobility, and passing. So I kind of cheated here a bit and went for two of the best quarterbacks in the league with Patrick Mahomes and Justin Herbert, guys who can have the long field passing to ping the ball downfield if you need to, but also mobile enough to carry the ball if you need them to. And up front, I wanted a finisher with killer instinct. So I went with a guy who's been up there for converting pressures to sacks over the past 4 years in the league, Hassan Reddick, the edge rusher now of the Jets, except he hasn't turned up to training camp yet, so maybe he won't be for too long, but that's my striker.
Right, my all-NFL team goes like this. I've picked a former professional soccer player who currently is in the NFL to be my goalkeeper, because he played goalkeeper for FC Dallas before retiring as a soccer player and transitioning to the NFL. He is a kicker, so you know he's going to have a good leg. It's the man that Urban Meyer made famous for all the wrong reasons in Jacksonville. It's Josh Lambo, the kicker. He actually played professional soccer, so, you know, why not go for that guy? My centre-back, I'm going for a guy who can cover a lot of ground, someone who's exceptionally agile, who is a bit of an enforcer, can really be physically imposing, hits people hard. It has to be a linebacker, a centre-back for me. It's Fred Warner. Centre mids, I've gone for two completely different types of players. While Ash has gone for two quarterbacks, I want a Patrick Vieira type enforcer, someone physically imposing, massive guy who's going to cover a lot of ground, never seems to slow down or get tired, and that's going to be Micah Parsons for me. I just think he can fill that role terrifically. And then alongside my enforcer, you're going to have the distributor, someone who is exceptionally efficient, really good passing the ball, doesn't have to be as physically big, but someone you know is just going to turn up every week and give a good performance. An Iron Man, if you will. And that's Jared Goff, obviously. And then the striker, well, I'm looking for my Romelu Lukaku. And, you know, that's kind of funny given that Belgium lost today. But I'm looking for a guy that, you know, he may not be able to run diagonally very quickly, but he can run in a straight line very fast. He's a big guy, can finish when required. It's DK Metcalf who, you know, has really come on strong. And have you got any thoughts about an NFL list of players that you want to put into your five-a-side team?
So goalkeeper, the nets are smaller, so I don't want someone too tall. I want someone very agile who will be good with the ball at their feet. It's the only one I've not been able to think of so far. Oh, Christ, what do I have? I want someone who's small, nimble, can dive quite far. Actually, you'd probably be looking at sort of like a receiver or something for that. I'll come back to my keeper. As a centre-back, I would have Patrick Surtain. I want someone who can stick to somebody like glue. Like in five-a-side, you always have that pain in the arse, really quick striker I want someone who can hold him up, shadow him, stick to him like glue. So I'd have Surtain in there. My midfield, I'm going to beat you with pace down the pitch. I'd take J-Mo and Tyreek Hill because I'm just going to beat you with pace. Like, these are guys who can run up and down the pitch all day. Doesn't necessarily need to be. They're both quite skilled, both quite technical, both enough. And then actually, I would agree with you. I would take DK up front because you need that big bruising presence up there, guy who, and plus, he's not slow. Like, that many chase down in what's his face a couple of years ago playing Arizona. Dude's quick, but he's physical. He's like your perfect five-a-side striker. So, yeah, I've got a sticky centre-back, two pacey as wingers who can just keep going up and down all day, and a big... Oh, who's the keeper, though? I just don't know with a keeper. I'd want someone who was, like, maybe a corner who could just, like, dive forever. Who would I pick? Gotta be...
Sauce?
I don't know. No, I want someone a bit slim. I want someone a bit slimmer. Who's
well, Sauce is as slim as they come. He's a gangly.
You know what? Screw it. I would pick someone like Sauce then. So let's say I don't want him to be too. I can attest this playing five-a-side. Being tall's not good in five-a-side because everyone nails it down to the bottom of you as well. I want someone who's got a low center of gravity, but who's also got ball skills because you need to be a good ball player in there.
Ash, your all Lions team.
So, big, tall, good reflexes. This guy's got such good reflexes. He can supposedly declares eligible from across the field. Of course, it's Dan Skipper.
Oh, you did it well. Come on.
Yes, I went for the joke as well.
God
And then
damn it.
centre back, good ball skills. Of course, it's my boy Kirby Joseph at centre back. Centre mids, passing ability. Well, let's go for our two best passers last year. Of course, I went for Jared Goff in my midfield, but I also had Jalen Reeves-Maben. Remember that dime he threw on the fake punt to Cleo Dorsey? That's the kind of long field passing I'm looking for with the body type. He's my John McGinn in my midfield, and I'm very happy. And up front, someone who's a finish and a killer instinct. How about the guy who caught the pass that killed the LA Rams in the playoffs and got us our first playoff win? And it's someone who knows a lot about football, having German connections. He was there watching the game a couple of days ago. Of course, it's the sun god himself, Amon-Ra St. Brown.
So my All Lions team, I also went with Dan Skipper in goal. I hate you for picking that guy. My centre-back, I also went for a safety, but I went for the other one. I went for Ifeatu Melifonwu. I just think that the way he came on last year, the shiftiness, the explosiveness, I think that really translates very well. Centre mid, well, I decided to go away from Jared Goff for this one just because I didn't want to pick the same player twice. So, you know, if Goff isn't in the All NFL, he'd be here. But as he isn't, I'm going to go for two players that I think bring a really intriguing skill set to the central midfield position. In Carlton Davis, who covers a lot of ground, speedy, nimble, and Sam Laporta, physical, kind of enforcer type again, but still very quick. Clearly is a good runner, can get to his spots very well. I think that would be a nice pick. And I've just gone for pace up front. You need a guy who's really come on leaps and bounds. You know, his play strength's improved. His route running ability's got there now. It's Jameson Williams up front. And what do you think, Lions-wise?
So I'm going old-fashioned English here, and I'm going to absolutely kick your ass. Saul, McNeil, Skipper, Reeder, and Campbell.
Love
You're
it.
going to be able to walk by the time my team is done with you. I am just going to
Jack Campbell or Dan Campbell?
Jack Campbell. I'm going to obliterate you into the ground. Absolutely, like just old-fashioned run over the opposition type stuff. You can have all the skill in the world, but you're no good when you're lying in a heap on the floor.
All right, that is going to do it for our show. Hope you enjoyed that little bit of fun there. Our next show on the main podcast is a look ahead to the players in the last year of their deal and who needs re-signing, who can we let play on the last year of their deal, who are we comfortable potentially with a franchise tag. All of that stuff is going to be discussed this time next week. College show, and presumably we've got part 2 of the CUSA coming up.
Yes, that will be tomorrow. We're doing that one. So we did the first 5 teams last week. Going to do the second 5 this week.
Fantastic. All right. Socials, you know what to do. Roar of the Lions UK, YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. And the Facebook group for Worldwide fans, the Detroit Lions fans UK, One Pride Worldwide. If Ash finishes his article soon, you can find it on rotluk.com. Just remains for me to thank Ashley Soden and our returning maestro, Anthony Fitzpatrick. I'm Matthew Turner. We'll see you next week. Don't forget the quiz on Saturday. Let's go, Lions, One Pride.
One pride.
One pride.
Recordings